ladies and gentlemen?
I don't know. Are we?
Are we live? Are we not live?
I
don't
even
know.
see the stream like showing up. Like I'm on your YouTube page and clicking on it, and yeah, I don't know. Well, we can.
Is there anything there? Are we live? I think we are live. I don't. But it's entire. Okay, let me just say this for those of you that are tuning in. For some reason, Wirecast was being finicky. I don't know why it was being finicky.
It's basically treating us like its ex-wife.
Yes, pretty much. Let me just say that just because we are live, let me just say because let me just say because we've had some issues, technical issues getting this going. For some reason, everything was fine, but Wirecast was not wanting to connect, and it would connect, and the little green Wi-Fi signal there was green, and then it would flash orange and then go red, and then a big X would go through it, and it was like, I don't know what's going on. So I did a computer update, I unplugged my modem, I restarted my computer, I did the whole kit and caboodle, as they say, and it seems like we're okay at the moment. But I just want to say, if this thing does crash, fingers crossed that it doesn't, but if it does, we're not going to bother wasting time trying to figure this out right now. Tony and I will move over to Google Hangout. Be patient. We'll come back. You'll see us pop up live via Google Hangout.
We're Boy Scouts. Always be prepared.
That's exactly right. So my apologies for the delay, but hey, these things happen. You got to roll with the punches. But we are live, ladies and gentlemen, episode 34?
Take two. Take two.
Episode 34 of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. It is Sunday, August the 11th, 2019. I'm going to be watching that green little thing like a fucking...
I'm watching us right now live on YouTube just to make sure we're so good.
So tonight, Tony and I are talking two fan favorites from the Elm Street and Friday the 13th series. Jeez, I should have got my...
I mean, I think this is like pretty much, we're the same age, this was probably like the first of the long run of horror films we bought in the 80s. These two especially.
It's crazy to think. I mean, now, let me preface this by saying that I understand and recognize that these two movies are fan favorites.
Yes.
They are not my favorites, but I understand that there is a lot of love. I don't not like them. Right? This is where nuance comes in. Dave said he didn't like it. No, he didn't say that. No, he didn't say that. He said that they weren't his favorites. Oh, okay. Anyway, but I do have fun with them when I watch them, especially Jason Lives. And I watched Elm Street 3 yesterday, and Jason Lives actually this afternoon. So Jason Lives is much more fresh in my brain, and I got a lot to say about that movie. Some interesting things I want to say because I haven't seen it in a long time. But anyway, Tony, how the hell are you? And
I'm good, man. How are you?
Better now that we're streaming.
We're still live and kicking?
I think we're still live and kicking. We're in HD. Things seem to be okay.
I've been meaning to ask you, since you're a voiceover actor, and I know that this is probably one of the most requested impersonations you do, and I know it's in every voice actor's arsenal. Walken? Can you do Walken? I don't think I've ever heard you do Walken.
Well, I'm not an impressionist. So when anybody asks me to do an impression of somebody, I usually resort to like a caricature of that person. Like when I do Donald Trump, right? I don't sound anything like Donald Trump, really. But you can tell it's just, it's a cartoon version. It's the way it is, okay? All right, fake news. Like I could play like you add that voice to a cartoon and you get it. It works, right? Walken is difficult. Walken's more like, how does Walken go? You got to get into the... to the guy. He's like,
I ain't even going to try. He's not a voice guy.
Hello, it's right there. It's not. It's too big. My shoes are tied. Hello. It's that kind of thing. Yeah, it's the way it is. I know.
If he does that on purpose. I wonder if he really.
No,
if it's just him.
It's his real accent. But it's just the way it is. Hello, my shoes are tied together. Come on. That's off the top of my head. That's where I would start with an impression of Walken, and then try to, come on, yeah, hello, my shoes, they're tied. Come on,
It's like a Walken Arnold crossover there.
And that's what everybody does when they do Arnold. It's like everybody resorts to Arnold from Total Recall. Hey, that's a movie we should do.
Oh, for sure. But yeah, man, what you were saying earlier about both of these, they're definitely fan favorites for sure. Personal fan favorites for me as well too. I definitely fall in that category. This is definitely like, if you were to pick 2 horror films to define what the 80s were like, here you go. It's got everything 80s cliche, from the music to the style to just the look of each film. This says the 1980s and just the fun of the 1980s and what I miss about the 1980s. And yeah, I'm glad we decided to pair these 2 up. I think this is going to be a fun show tonight to tackle in there. Do you have a preference of who you want to start with, Dream Warriors or Jason Lives? Which I'm rocking the Jason Lives tee.
Yeah, I'm rocking. Look at this. Look at this new Freddy shirt I've got.
Unplanned. Actually, I told him earlier, I thought we were going to be a Bobsy twin thing tonight, because we have yet to wear the same themed shirt, and we do cover a lot of horror. Sooner or later, it's going to happen. But I wasn't sure if you were going to wear Freddy or Jason. And my feeling was like he was going to wear Jason, but I think you wore Jason last weekend, didn't you? Or last show?
Yeah, I think I did.
Yeah.
And yes, I am wearing orange track pants, ladies and gentlemen, because when you sit and you do the show, you got to be comfortable. And hey, orange, Halloween. Enough with the Halloween, McRae! Okay. Yeah, let's start with Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. Okay.
Filmed 45 minutes up the road from where I live, so I'm excited to talk about this because I have been to this location many times.
Okay, all right. Well, do you want to start, or?
Oh, yeah, let me get my notes out here.
All right, Tony is going to start. He is going to start, ladies and germs. For those of you that are just tuning in, we appreciate your patience. Tony and I had some major technical difficulties with Wirecast. It appears to be working okay so far. Fingers crossed. We're broadcasting in full HD, so that's good. Again, like I said a few moments ago, if for whatever reason it suddenly does conk out, be patient. Tony and I will come back via Google Hangout. But things seem to be okay, so maybe the issue has resolved itself. All right,
hopefully.
Here we go.
Mike Armstrong, I got the T-shirt at Hot Topic. That's last during October during the Halloween season. That's usually when Hot Topic and places like that really crank out the merchandise.
I also want to say that I noticed that there were a couple of super chats that came in via the last feed that Tony and I had to sort of dissolve because of the issue that was going on. I want people to know that your super chats were, I believe the...
Were you able to save them? Because if not, rather than trying for us to see it in the chat, go ahead and DM me them on my Instagram account, and I'll pull the questions up on my Instagram, when we start doing the Q&A, if Dave can't pull up the questions.
Right. I don't see the one super chat came in here. I believe I saw quite a hefty super chat from Ethan LeBlanc come in. That hasn't...
Oh, and Ethan, you follow me, dude. Just send that right over to me right now, and we'll get that question answered here in a little while.
Yeah, that hasn't registered yet. It should register. It may not have registered yet, Ethan, because it was a significant amount, which we really appreciate, by the way. It goes right back into the channel. But it's not registering here yet, probably because it takes a while for it to register. So I will keep an eye on that throughout the show, but just to let you guys know that we have not forgotten about you. Okay, Tony, take it away!
All right, yeah. So as we were saying here, Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives, the MTV heavy metal, Alice Cooper, Man Behind the Mask, Friday the 13th. Obviously coming off of... Are we live still?
We are.
Okay, I saw you move for a second. I was like, oh, crap.
Because I wanted to say this. You're with your baby, and you're parked alone on a summer night.
All right, I'm not going to lie.
You're deep in love, but you're deeper in the woods. You think you're doing all right.
Actually, know the words is like mad props, dude. But I'm not going to lie.
I'm reading it from the screen.
Well, I was going to say, damn, dude, like that's mad props. You know the lyrics. No, I'm not going to lie. I was listening to both that and Dream Warriors by Dokken for the last 2 days just to kind of get into the mood
Dream
of the show.
Warriors.
I gotta say, I like Dream Warriors. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not a big Dokken, however they're pronounced, fan. But that song, it's my guilty pleasure, and I do play frequently on my playlist.
I would say that I
not frequently, but it comes up periodically over the course of the month. I should clarify that.
I like Alice Cooper's
Man Behind the Mask.
Yeah, I like it better. Yeah. I like it better than Dream Warriors. I just love it. It's great. Yeah, I do. Okay. Yeah, I like
Cooper,
the song.
I like Cooper. But... Cooper's like hit or miss with me with some of his tunes. Like I like a lot, and then there's some that I don't like. But no, I for a second there I was like, damn, you're a big Cooper fan.
No, but I did have Man Behind the Mask on my MP3 player back in the mid 2000s when I used to jog, or I still jog, but when I used to have an MP3 player, I had it on there. It was part of the cycle.
But filmed here in Madison and Covington, Georgia, as I was saying just a few moments ago. I go out there very frequently and do a lot of my Friday the 13th Part 2 pictures that I do on Instagram. All the shoots taking place right there where they filmed Part 6 on the campgrounds, near the lake, the cemetery, all of that. And it's so great to be there because you feel like you're part of, cinema history, especially if you're a horror fan, and you're a part of one of the better films in the franchise,
right.
And whatnot. But yeah, I mean, let's just start off with the opening, that James Bond style opening. I still love that. I know some people don't like it, but I love that opening where it just zooms up on Jason after the whole, Frankenstein, revival of him. And then, you get this James Bond, opening. I thought that was super cool. Did you like that?
Yeah, okay, so...
I mean, it's 80s for sure.
Oh, it is. Like I said, I just watched Friday the 13th 6, Jason Lives, this afternoon for the first time in quite a few years. And I remember it very well, and it's how I remembered it. And certainly, it's a... Kevin Williamson, the screenwriter who wrote Scream, and I Know What You Did Last Summer, and I even think Halloween H2O. I think he helped
part of
with
it
that as well.
Produced it, part of it, something. Yeah.
I believe. I stand to be corrected, but Jason Lives was a big inspiration for him, and growing up through the 1980s, and you can definitely look. It's a very spoofy film. Yeah. It's the first movie in the franchise that really doesn't take itself very seriously.
And effectively delivers it.
Oh, it does. It absolutely does. But it's a strikingly different tone than what we're used to.
Oh,
and
for sure.
It's the kind of movie that I think, thankfully, a lot of people seem to really like it for that. But I can certainly see how some people, maybe like myself, are like, yeah, I mean, I can enjoy it for what it is, but it always is a weird feeling movie to me, because it's such a departure from the tone and feel of the rest of the series. And, it's one thing to start a series like that. It's another thing to change it 6 movies in. It's not like this is the sequel. This is 6 movies in. Now, to be fair,
coming off of the flop of 5 and not having Jason.
Well, that's what I was going to say actually made it work. I don't know if Part 6 would have worked or landed if Part 6 was actually Part 3 or 4. Because there was a resolve of Jason, for all intents and purposes, in Friday the 13th Part 4. And then you had 5, which you were starting to kind of, go in a bit different direction, which didn't land. But 5 still, there was that hokey scene where the guy's riding around the yard on his,
Yeah.
And of course, was that 5 or was that 3? Actually,
that was 5.
That was 5.
No,
that was 5.
Yeah. That was 5.
Yeah.
That was the son, the guy riding around on his bike.
Don't get me wrong. There's always been hokey things in Friday the 13th. Even Ralph, you're all doomed.
Look at the beginning of 6. It's straight out of a Frankenstein. I know Tom McLaughlin, the director, he totally was inspired by Frankenstein, the movie, with the lightning strike and raising Jason from the dead.
100%. But it's a very self-aware film. And it works, though, because it feels like it's the beginning of something new. Right, yep. You are bringing him back. It's a rebirth. It's a re-imaging. It's almost like a reboot of the Friday the 13th franchise.
Really
it almost is in a lot of
Before
ways.
reboots became a thing.
Right. And so it kind of works in that regard, although, and then of course you have Jason Takes Manhattan and Jason Goes Out. But I have to say, it's not my preference with the direction. That I much prefer watching 1 through 4. I would watch 1 through 4 over 6 any day. Not because I don't like 6, but 6 is an acquired taste. It's a very rich piece of cake. And it's good
the only
cake.
one with kids.
True. But I find that I like my Friday the 13th a little more. There's cheesiness to it, but it's not so self-aware. It's kind of, where part 6 is just, it's fun. The American Express card and the music. A
lot of one-liners, light up the cherries.
So,
it's all the enchiladas,
So what were you going to be when you grew up? What do you say? It was like,
but I think Tom.
Fuck yeah! Hit the noise and pop those cherries or whatever he said.
I think that was Tom. If you ever see interviews with Tom McLaughlin, who's the director of it, I mean, first of all, this dude is straight right out of a metal rock and roll video. Long hair. He's like me. One of the last few people who will just refuse to let the '80s go and metal and rock and whatnot. And I think he was very self-aware what he was doing. He even mentions that about with the American Express card showing up there in her hands for a brief moment. He did that on purpose, knowing that there would be a joker in the audience screaming from the background, "Don't leave home without it."
Exactly.
And I mean, so I think that's why for the time in '86 86 because Elm Street came out in '87. I mean, talk about back-to-back fun movies for in that time. If you were old enough to go and appreciate this, because I remember seeing 6, and I was taken to see 6 in the theaters, but I was so young, and it's like when you reach our age, for those who are young watching, anything that happens from 10 years and younger is still images. It's really hard to explain. I remember being in theater. I remember seeing it. I remember, my grandfather taking me, but I don't remember specific moments, when I saw it in the theater. But the comedy stuff does kind of stick out to me of what the director says in, the behind the scenes, Crystal Lake Memories, when you watch that part of part 6 and they talk about it. I get what he was trying to do. I get the whole gothic, symbolisms that he was bringing into this and something new in essence, like you just said a moment ago, restarting the franchise. I like this film. It's my 3rd favorite in the Friday franchise because of the fun that it brings. It defines what the 80s was, you know what I mean? And the fun of the 1980s. If you were old enough to be a teenager in there, man, I envy you because you grew up probably, in my opinion, the best decade ever. You and I were just a little bit young, but old enough to be aware of what was happening.
Oh, yeah. And I had older siblings that were teenagers in the 80s. So I almost feel like I was in some respects. Yeah.
Which is super cool. And then I always forget that I call him Ghost, but Tony Goldwyn is in this as well, too.
Yeah, the guy from Ghost.
That's
right.
Because that's really his biggest role that he's known for.
Only 4 years later.
Literally 4 years later. And but even the campy lines his girlfriend says in the movie, I've seen enough horror movies to know a guy with wearing a mask, you need to go the other way and whatnot. So they're definitely playing off of everything that has led up to that point in horror movies.
Well, it's in many respects, like I said, Kevin Williamson, the screenwriter of Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer and Halloween H2O in part, you can definitely see Scream in Friday the 13th Part 6. It's very self-aware. It's playing off the horror cliches of the time.
Big time.
Right? Big time. And the one-liners. But at the same time, there's a horror movie around it that you can enjoy. I like Friday the 13th Part 6, but I think because of the kind of person I am, and because I really like getting lost in the real moodiness of the first 4 films and it's not I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites. It's a fan favorite. I recognize it. I acknowledge it. And I say, I totally get it. But I think it just, it's an acquired taste. I got to
Sure.
be in the right mood for it because I see Jason as a serious thing.
Right.
You know, I don't mean a serious thing. I mean the entire franchise is not, you know, serious. But what I mean is that I see it as is, like those first 4 films, although they were you know, cheesy in their own right. It had a certain feel and a certain style and a certain sound and tone. And with part 6, you know, it's like I'm watching a spoof. I'm watching a fan film or
that has somewhat of a serious tone to it.
Right. Exactly. So it kind of, it's just acquired for me. But when you're in the right mood, or when I'm in the right mood, I should say, because I recognize that I'm in the minority when I say this, it's very enjoyable. But there's not a lot of atmosphere in the movie. There's a lot of, you know, nighttime shots and, you know, things like that. But I'm talking about real, genuine suspense. The same kind of, not the
especially the first 2.
Yeah, like you don't see a lot of that, you know. It's just very sort of, you know, but hey, it's the 6th installment. That's the direction they took. They had to bring him back, so they made him. I've always believed that Jason on some level has always been literally supernatural. And then him becoming the zombie Jason he was back from the dead.
Because that was
so
the first zombie Jason, right?
Right. This sort of just solidified it. And I know you could make the argument that there was a side to him that was human from 2 to 4. You could, but I always, just the way he looked and how brute he was and how he was able to survive. And there was something about him that was very sort of, you know, always there. And this just kind of solidified it. But everything's out the window now. I mean, he's a zombie. Well, how does he have eyes? The rest of him is decaying, but not his eyes, right? And then the electricity just lights him up, and he comes out, and he's wearing clothes that he wasn't wearing at the end of part 4 when he went in there. So, I mean, you know, he's got a completely new wardrobe on, and he's got gloves on, you know, and he's a bit chunky.
Which are Tommy's gloves, you know, that, you know, Tommy brings to the, you know, cemetery at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
I guess, you know, for a grip purpose, you know, maybe he just felt like he couldn't grip, you know, with the way his hands were.
Maybe,
you know, couldn't grip his tools.
It's a fun movie, no doubt.
That came out wrong. Couldn't grip his tool.
It's fun, but it's such a departure from tone from where Friday the 13th was. So it's always been an acquired taste for me to kind of settle into, but I recognize a lot of people love it for that reason.
Sure. I could imagine back in, you know, 86 when the movie came out. And again, you know, you're talking, I'm no more than 7. We're 7 years old when it came out at the time. So like, you know, I can imagine if we're like teenager.
We're like the age of the kids in
in
Friday
the
the
film.
13th part 6. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. And I could imagine being a teenager at the time. This must have been a fun movie to take your date to, and, you know, Friday night, you know, popcorn movie. And that, in all intents purpose, I think that's the direction why McLaughlin did, because I personally like the cinematography and the locations that they chose, not just because I live close to it, but because that does help, you know, because I physically have been there. I've seen it. It really does feel like this is where you want to film a Friday the 13th movie, other than the first 2 films, which were filmed in New Jersey and in Connecticut. You look at the surrounding area in Georgia here that they filmed in it. It's the campground. It's still active today. It's up and running. You can rent it out for the weekend. They have Friday the 13th weddings there all the time and shit. I mean, awesome. It's so much fun. But it looks and feels like a campground in the way a Friday the 13th film should feel. I felt my thing with 3 and 4, they went away from that. It just no longer was at Camp Crystal Lake. I understand they're still on the lake, and I understand a lake is big, and I understand there's opposite parts of the lake and that he shouldn't just be in one area. But the premise of the story was always to be on a campground. So I like the fact that McLaughlin brings it back to the campgrounds. And for those people who have been picking the fact that nobody goes camping in the fall, that's not true. Down here, October is almost impossible to get to that campground on the weekends because they're always renting it out for campers coming there for the weekend for fall stuff and whatever, Boy Scout shit, Girl Scout shit, and all that stuff. So kids do go camping in the winter, or not in the winter, in the fall. So that is believable, because I know people couldn't buy into Jason in the fall and the whole fall setting there, because it was during the fall season when they shot it. But to, you know, debunk that theory of people saying kids don't go camping in the fall, no, it's true. Kids do go camping in the fall. So I do like the whole visual look of the film. the comedy, like for example, I had wrote this down because the comedy began to wear on me a little bit. Like when the caretaker, who I know people have theorized to be Jason's father, that's looking over him. I think McLaughlin wanted that to be, but it never turned out to be because he said it initially. That's what he wanted. So people have taken that, what he said in Crystal Lake Memories, and they've taken it literally. I don't think the caretaker was his father, but when he says that line, does he think I'm a fart head? And then it cuts to the kids going, yes. It's just like, okay, I see what you're doing there.
Well, and the fact that he's looking at the camera
breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. It's such a departure.
The campiness of it, I agree with you. It begins to wear itself out. Like the extra kill when you watch the documentary and they talk about how the producers and Frank Mancuso wanted more kills. They bring in that couple there, shot that scene out in California of them on the scooter, and just because they wanted to add, I honestly think that's a scene that they could have cut out. It really serves no fucking purpose at all. You're just adding to the body count.
That's right. Oh, I agree. And there's no atmosphere. Like there's atmosphere in the sense that it's in the woods at night and it's lit appropriately. Yes, but that's
a little too lit. I was like, man, it ain't that light
there's
in the woods.
There's a lot of that when they show. I love when they show Crystal Lake at the beginning and the trees on the other side of the lake are lit up like a fucking Christmas tree. And what's so funny is that the fall off, like the hot spot, and this all about, photography, being a photographer, like the middle of the tree bank across the lake is lit up like a Christmas, and then there's this dark fall off. So, so obviously,
like, I was like, are you going for a real heavy vignette or what? Like, I don't get it.
What's going on here? Obviously, it's supposed to be moonlight of some sort. But when I say atmosphere, I mean that Jason just suddenly, he's just there, and there's not a lot of things. And I'm not trying to, it's a catch-22 because I get the kind of movie it's supposed to be, but those are things in it that are, well, yeah, the Easter eggs too.
Cunningham Road, Carpenter Station, Karloff store. I mean, like,
that's right.
I felt like this was basically a love letter to the horror genre at that time.
Well,
and everyone who had an impact on it.
And what happened is that after the box office failure of Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning in 1985, what ended up happening is that Paramount, it was Paramount at the time, right? I think? Yeah.
Yeah, I think
so. They obviously realized that, oh my God, I mean, it was Friday the 13th Part 6 was the Halloween 4, follow me now, the Halloween 4 of the franchise in the sense that Michael was gone. They had a film that was going in a different direction, but had flopped. So you had Friday the 13th 5, and it had flopped, and Paramount, but you say Paramount, like Mustafa Akkad said, we need to bring him back.
Right.
And the director of Part 6, who also wrote the film, of course, presents this idea, and they're just like, sure, yeah, that's because what else are you going to do at this point? You've done it. It has run its course through 4 movies. Yep. It's run its course. What else are you going to do? Now, Halloween 4 brought back Michael in more of they were taking themselves seriously. Right. Whether you agree with the decision or like the movie or not is irrelevant. The tone of the movie and the presentation was, this is legit, like this is a serious film. Yep. Whereas Friday the 13th decided to almost spoof themselves.
Right.
And then they were doing that.
Say, like, Happy Friday the 13th in the film?
Something like that.
At one point.
Yeah, something like that. And then, of course, you look
Very
at
meta.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then 7, The New Blood, a little. I mean, not quite as campy as part 6, but still kind of campy with the whole telekinesis, all that shit.
And really, the only decent Kane Hodder one, because I know that's the beginning of Kane Hodder's run. It would have been interesting to see if Kane Hodder was casted in Part 6. How much would that have changed? Because I know they went through a couple Jasons in Part 6. There's like 2 or 3, I think, right?
I think there's at least 2. Yeah.
The guy Jason.
The guy that's playing him during the paintball scene, essentially, they didn't like him because he was too fat. So they got another guy to take over. But So when you look at it from that perspective, it really is like, when you break down Friday the 13th Part 6, it's a fan favorite, probably because it's very self-aware, and it's something that is unique and different, that was brought to the franchise that the franchise did not have. And whether it was the right decision or not, I don't know. It did make, I believe it actually still made the least money out of...
It did. It took a while for this thing to become a cult classic with the fan base.
It did. I believe it cost, I think $3 million to make, or something like that. Very low. And it grossed about $19 million. I stand to be corrected, but I think it was the first Friday the 13th movie to have not made $20 million at the box office, I believe.
It didn't make it until the back end went on VHS sales, eventually DVDs,
and that's when it became a sort of a cult thing. So it was acquired. It was an acquired taste, and
I will say this,
but what else are you going to do at that point?
If you watch Part 4 again and you look at the girl who plays Tommy Jarvis's older sister, watch Part 6 again and look at Tommy Jarvis in there. If you look at their eyes, they look like they could be brother and sister. They have very similar eye features. If you look at, I can't remember the guy's name now who plays him in.
Tom.
Oh my God, I just had it. Tom Matthews. Tom Matthews, who, by the way, which is cool. He's going to be doing the character again in this YouTube fan film, Tommy versus Jason. So I'm actually excited to see that. Looking forward to see what those guys do.
Absolutely.
But if you look at Tom and you look at the girl who played his sister in Part 4, very similar, just eye features that they could literally be brother and sister. So that was whoever did the casting on that did a really good job and caught that, because you can definitely see a similarity. I just wish the sister was in the film, somewhere.
Right. Now, he looks nothing like Corey Feldman, but
No, I know. I've never been like I know people in this romanticized, world want Corey Feldman to be the one and only Tommy Jarvis, but I didn't really care for him as Tommy in Part 4. I mean, he was a kid actor at the time. He was good, but I don't think he's the definitive of the three that played Tommy Jarvis in 4, 5, and 6. I actually like Tom, who played him in 6. Of all of them, I thought he was the best Tommy Jarvis.
I think for me, I tend to lean towards Corey Feldman only because of how I gravitate towards the series. So if I'm going to watch the series, I will watch Part 4 far more than I'll ever watch Part 6.
Sure.
But between Tommy from Part 5 and Part 6, I think Tom Matthews, he did a good job. But I mean, the characters in the film too are very self-aware. You the one-liners and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's a very interesting movie to dissect, and I'm glad that we're talking about it here today because it's a
fun horror film.
It's fun, but it almost is like it's not even connected to the Friday the 13th franchise in some ways. Like it is, obviously it is, it 100% is, but you can almost watch it on its own merits. And not that you need to watch a lot of these horror movies in, sequence. I mean, let's be real here. But I think you know what I'm trying to say is that you can almost watch it on its own as it's like a horror comedy. It's like the movie House directed by Steve Miner. Like it's almost like that movie, right? And it kind of feels like it's a spoof like House. It's not taking itself seriously at all. And it's like, this is a Friday the 13th movie? Really? It's like, no. It's a Friday the 13th late night TV special that's making fun of itself, but it's not a movie connected to the franchise. It almost feels like that.
It almost feels like the best fan film ever made of the franchise.
In some ways it does, but it works. And when you add the hokey, cheesy music when the paintballers are on screen, it works. Why?
Yep.
Because the entire feel and aesthetic of the movie is, like that, right? Is very shticky and spoofy. Yep. So it works. It does work. It does work. It's just, I find it it's a very interesting kind of, it's very interesting taste.
Very meta. Some interesting facts about the movie, just to let you guys know, because when I first started to do shoots there, the state rangers are pretty aware of it, and when they see like someone coming out there with Friday the 13th stuff on, they're like, okay, so they know like where everything took place. So like, for example, when the kids are in their bedroom, that's actually the cafeteria hall on the campground. The kitchen, when Jason's walking up to the fireplace and then he sees Nancy, which no, that's not a wink to Nightmare on Elm Street. That, according to Tom, he says that's not a wink, though a lot of fans think it is.
Oh, fans think that everything. Her name could have been Lauren, and they would have been like, oh, Lauren?
Yeah,
Laurie Strode! It's like, oh, for fuck's sakes. No, not everything.
When he walks up there and turns around and looks at the fireplace, literally right behind him, they had to put bookshelves there to create this, quote, room for where the kids slept. But it's really the cafeteria because the kitchen is right behind that, where they filmed earlier, scenes there with the counselors unloading the groceries and shit like that. Another fun scene is when Tommy's, is trying to take off from the cops, right? And he turns up that dirt road that's supposed to lead to that dirt road.
Pop the cherries!
No, it's leading right up to the campground.
Oh, that one. That's right.
That dirt road that Tommy's on is not heading to the cemetery. It's heading right up to the campgrounds. That's where they filmed it. Because the road that the campgrounds is on, it's on this like long road for about 1.5 miles you take to go all the way deep into the woods and out to where the lake is. So they, instead of like filming it in a separate spot, they just created this scene and on the main road off of where Camp Daniel, which is what the campground is called. And he hangs that right in there. He's hanging that right, actually going back into the campgrounds. Then you get that quick cut, and then it's his truck going over the railroad tracks, and you see the cemetery, which is not the entrance to the cemetery. The actual entrance to the cemetery is behind you by about 2.5 football fields. That's actually the middle part of the cemetery because it's broken up into two. So what they did was they filmed that scene of the truck going over, the police car going over, and then they went back to film the actual chase scenes behind them, where all the Gothic-looking tombstones are and whatnot that you see in the film, because the actual entrance to the cemetery is right next to Old Madison, downtown Georgia. It's all like old historic homes, plantation homes, Southern antebellum type homes, very beautiful area. But it's not like this dirt road that they want to portray in the movie that Tommy's driving up to. I'm like, that's when I learned the magic of Hollywood.
Right. Fascinating. Very, very. I didn't know that. So how far away is the campground from
45
you
minutes
now?
From where I live. 45 minutes. It would take 45 minutes to get there. Yeah. If I was driving the Camaro, probably about 30 minutes. So yeah, if I'm driving the Jeep, 45.
I think the actual line in the movie is "hit the noise and the cherries." I think he should have been like, "Fucking A, what'd I tell you? Hit the noise and pop those cherries."
Should have said that. Yeah,
he should have said that. That's a missed opportunity right there. In a horror movie, that's the perfect. Especially that kind of a horror movie. That's the perfect place to say something like that.
Oh, for sure. He was a acting coach, from my understanding, and I think he worked with some of the kids in acting classes. The sheriff who played the sheriff in the movie, he was actually an acting coach in real life. So I think a lot of what they said, these lines were, a lot of it was improvised. I mean, some of it Tom wrote himself, but a lot of improvisation went on. In fact, the ones who died out playing paintball, those were actually part of like a improv group in Chicago.
That's what I heard. I heard
friends with somebody who was working on the set, and they brought him in. Just again, they wanted to add more to the body count. The one kill that bugs me to this day is that, I mean, yes, you can slam someone in a tree, and the force of it will kill someone if you hit them hard enough in their head. But they're not gonna leave a fucking smiley face. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, come on. Like, as a kid, I thought it was the coolest shit in the world. As an adult now, I'm like,
I know. No, it's yeah. I mean, it is. I mean, some of my, look, if I had to pick, some of my favorite scenes, I would probably say the RV scene and the two deaths in there are fun to watch. That's a fun scene. Now, but the sex scene is hilarious because the dude is lying there.
Nephew?
Well, he's lying there, and I don't know if he's trying to, go like this to the music, or he's trying to be like really sexually into her, because he looks like he's going.
I don't
cheesy.
know.
It's so cheesy and so funny. But the two deaths in there are cool. The turn,
I love the flipping of the trailer. That's an epic
really
shot.
Awesome stuff. Jason coming out, standing on top of it.
Believe me,
really
I'm
cool
trying
as
to
well.
recreate that. I've been looking through all the Georgia junkyards in South Carolina, and I'm hoping to just find a trailer tipped upside down and be like, okay, let's get the shot.
Nice. I would love to see that. So that is definitely, I love that. I would say that I also really like I like the moment with Nancy, the girl, oh, please, Lord, please open it, and then he's gone,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
I think that's
gone.
kind of a cute moment. Love the
tell
ending.
you, when you watch that movie for the first time, and I show that one, and I look over and I see the people's reaction, they're like, is he about to kill kids? Because they don't know.
Right.
And so I felt like we know what happens because we've seen it enough. But if someone's seeing it for the first time, I felt like they really executed that suspense, very similar to Michael in the 2018 film with the baby.
Right.
You thought like, damn, are we going here with this? And if you're seeing Jason Lives for the first time and he's in there with the little kids, you're wondering like, is shit about to get real serious here for a moment.
That's right. Yeah. And especially back then.
Yeah.
So I do like that. I like her little character. I like when she leans over the side of the bed to look under her bed, and she's upside down and her hair is such a cute little kid. And I like the ending, of course, with the fire and the boat and Tommy and things like that. That's a classic sort of thing. I always liked that as a kid as well, growing up. And then, of course, you get the horror cliche at the end with his one eye opening, and it's like, oh, it's your baby, and you're all alone. Na-na-na-na-na. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it is a very big departure from what Friday the 13th was. It's the MTV
metal version of Friday the 13th. That is really what it is.
Funny enough, although it is the fan favorite within the Friday the 13th franchise, and we're talking about the two fan favorites, and you go over to Elm Street, which that would be Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. Funny enough, I believe it wasn't until Elm Street 4 that really introduced the MTV Freddy, per se. Freddy in Elm Street 4, I wouldn't say Elm Street 4 is a spoof. It's not very, it's self-aware to a degree, but it's certainly not at anywhere near the same level that Friday the 13th Part 6 is. Elm Street 4, but Elm Street 4 is like the Freddy we saw in Elm Street 3, the beginnings of this slapsticky sort of, is...
It was definitely a beginning of a change for Freddy, and I think it's like they struck gold, and they're like, okay, let's run with this.
Right, and then we see the result of that Freddy in the Dream Master. Yeah. But, so, I mean, but yeah, it's a... Yeah, I like that. It's very...
I do like Megan. Megan's my second favorite Friday girl after... Is she blonde. She's the blonde.
Right.
Amy Steele, Jeannie, is my first, and then Megan, the actress who played her, I can't remember her name. She's my second Friday girl.
Cook. Somebody Cook.
Yeah, something Cook.
Something Cook.
They'll get me in the chat room. They'll back me up. She's definitely my second favorite Friday girl. I mean, I know everyone loves Adrian. I mean, I don't have any issues with Adrian. She's great in the first film, but as far as like as a whole, when I look at all the Friday girls, Megan's definitely my second favorite.
Right. 1 sec, just making sure everything's okay here. Yeah, we're still good.
Jennifer Cook. See, they had us.
Yeah, Jennifer Cook. That's what I thought. So, all right. Well, you want to move over to Elm Street 3, The Dream Master?
Yeah.
Freddy Krueger, baby!
Freddy Krueger. Here we go. Yeah. If I were to get a Freddy tattoo, I would definitely... I've been debating on getting a Freddy tattoo. This may be one. I do like this, and I also like the iconic one with Nancy. That's also a favorite artwork of mine. But yeah, Dream Warriors, man. It's the Dream Warriors.
Hey, we were in harmony there. No,
we were in harmony. I mean, first it's cool that Wes Craven. I would have loved to have seen Wes Craven's original adaptation of this, or at least read it. I don't think it's available online unless someone can point me in a direction in the chat room where it is, because I think when he originally wrote this, Nancy still was going to die, but it was a much darker Nightmare on Elm Street that he wanted to do. And that's when the studio stepped in and they shifted it. And even though he's credited as a screenplay writer and a story writer,
right,
some of what he wrote got into the film, but they clearly went into a much different direction. I've always wondered, was he happy with the results? Or sometimes in interviews, you almost get this sense of a little bit of an irritation, because I think he really wanted to take the franchise in a different direction. He did not want Freddy to go. He didn't want Freddy to turn into the campy character that it eventually turned into.
Right.
So I wonder behind closed doors how he really felt about this particular film, because I would love to read what he wrote.
Yeah, I would too. It's a great question. I think Elm Street 3, no doubt, is a big fan favorite in this series. It's not my favorite. I actually prefer I prefer the original is my favorite. And then, believe it or not, for those of you that may not know, if you're new to my channel or new to my views on things, part 2, funny enough, is my second favorite. Not because of the story per se, but just because of the way Freddy is executed in that film. Sure. I think he is he is arguably more frightening in part 2 than he is in part 1. And he's a hella frightening in part 1. But he is just the look of him. Like this face here is what he looks like in part 2. Yeah. And just I love that.
I think
that
if
look.
You were to line up 100 Nightmare on Elm Street fans, I think it would be split down the middle, the top 3 favorites. Because like mine is 1, 3, 2. Yours would probably be 1, 2, 3.
Correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's how it would go. Yeah. I don't not like 2. I like 2. There's just certain elements to 3 that I like more. I like the kills. I thought the kills were very creative, especially even though, yes, they're a little bit dated now with the way technology's evolved. But you got to remember, man, back in 1987, an impressionable 8-year-old kid, I loved it. I thought it was like the coolest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah. And, to your point, Tony, I mean, you have to remember too that part 2 is a departure, not just in narrative, but in tone and in our protagonist. I mean, we get emotionally attached to this cute, Heather Langenkamp, right? And then, she's our main star and our main protagonist, and they do a sequel, and it's like it's a completely different town. I mean,
right. Even though it's the same house, it doesn't feel like it.
Right, because now we have to get who is this guy? What's this all about? And we have to get used to this whole kind of thing. The concept is quite interesting about him wanting to take over a body, and it starts to get a little sort of there's certain questionable creative decisions that they made in terms of the mythology when it comes to Freddy and reality in the dream world and things like that I know did rub some people the wrong way. But there is a very distinct, eerie, creepy feel to that movie. When that movie opens, and I know we're talking about 3 here, and we'll get back to that in a second, but when that movie opens, there's a very distinct feel and very creepiness to it. The music, the bus, the dream on top of the big things, and he's coming up, the bus, and you see his knives coming up, and it's just like, oh, this is so dark and creepy. So it's why it's my second favorite. But back to 3. 3 is that movie where there's that change in the presentation of Freddy, a creative choice, a total change. But it's a balance that I would be okay going back to. I would prefer in a reboot of A Nightmare on Elm Street that they go back to the darkest Freddy Krueger we've ever had.
1 and 2 for sure.
1 and 2. But if they split the difference and they settled on how he was in 3, I would be cautiously optimistic, because it's a nice sort of balance in there to what he was. And 3 was a film that, I think one of the reasons why people tend to watch 1, leapfrog over 2 into 3 is because you do have the connection there again. And
Nancy and her dad,
and John Saxon, that's right. Yep. That emotional attachment that you had built up is back. And you're like, so a lot of people feel like it's really the true sequel to A Nightmare on Elm Street for that reason. And I understand that. And it's a valid point to make. And it's not, even though there are things we see in Elm Street 3 that Freddy does, like, hey, Jennifer, this is your big break. Welcome to prime time, bitch, and all that kind of stuff, right? I mean, I wasn't full on doing it there, so just because, I don't want to blow the mic out. But, if he, that kind of thing it's okay. It's, all right, because he did, in part 2, you've got the body, I've got the brains and all that kind of stuff. So saying those kind of one-liners are not out of his, this is God. I mean, it's not out of character. But we did see him much more clearly and animated than we ever had before up till that point. So it was a different sort of take on Freddy and who he was. But I think one of the reasons why people love that movie is not because of Freddy Krueger. It has nothing to do with him. Nothing to do with him. I think it has everything to do with this idea of having, these, what's the dreams, the lucid
dream
dreaming
sequences, yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Like you're having, what the hell do you call those dreams where you're dreaming? Lucid dreaming? Is that what it is?
I think it is. I think that's what it is.
Anyway, the point I'm making is that all of that, I mean, and this banding together of these group of people, right? And these teenagers that, and they can be anything they want, and the cool dream
and the gold mine of Patricia Arquette. I mean, this is her first feature film.
Right.
And I'm sure they didn't realize the talent they had on her hands, because honestly, I know everyone loves it because, like you just said, it's that it feels like the direct sequel to the original, because you got Nancy back.
She comes back.
Patricia Arquette runs circles around everybody in there as far as acting goes.
She's fantastic in there.
Yeah. I mean,
you bring
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say that is one of the, like, it's a cool little, the concept is interesting, seeing these characters being offed by Freddy one by one in very unique situations. It's our first look at a dream sequence that is very, it's not really crazy and wild like it became in I was about to say Halloween, in Elm Street 5. But it's unique.
Yeah.
It's unique stuff, right? Where you see, the guy like this with his veins out and he's doing this, and it has everything
the
to do with
marionette
that.
scene. That's a cool scene. Yeah.
It's great stuff. Freddy, when he shows up, okay, cool.
I
welcome,
gotta say,
Prime Time Bitch is classic. But
when him and Nancy see each other for the first time, that's the one scene I don't like. I felt like it should have been Robert Englund as Freddy, not as the worm Freddy. I think it should have been Robert Englund as Freddy, and he looks over and he sees Nancy, and hear me out. He says the line, "You."
Yes.
Pauses for a moment. "I'm not done with you." And then goes. You know what I mean? Gives her that look and says, "I'm not done with you." You know what I mean?
I like that.
I would have loved that's the only disappointment when you're reuniting these two iconic characters in this series. I felt like it kind of falls flat. You know what I mean?
Right.
There should have been more of a powerful moment between Heather and Robert, as they're seeing each other again. And like I said, he says, "You," a brief pause, "I'm not done with you."
Right.
And then, they just, they wake up from their dream, Patricia Arquette and Nancy both wake up and,
I like that. Yeah, no, I think it would have been nice to have actually Robert Englund there when they lay the eyes on each other for the first time. But it's there's a lot to like in that movie. I mean, I think I prefer watching that movie over Friday the 13th Part 6, primarily because
I can see that. Yeah.
For me, it's just it's Friday Part 6 it's fun, but it's so self-aware that I almost have trouble getting into it because I don't know how to get into it, like because of the movies that came before. With Elm Street 3, it still takes itself seriously, even though Freddy is in the beginning stages of being a little more comedic.
And becoming like this huge pop culture, icon of the 80s, I mean, literally, this is it.
Yeah, that was the beginning of it.
Oh yeah,
100%.
He takes off
100%.
and New Line just they go along right for the ride.
And the opening credits, I love the opening credit sequence, and I love the music of the opening credit sequence, and I love that Patricia Arquette is making that paper mache house or the popsicle stick house or whatever the hell it is there.
I have that. That's in my entry when you walk into my home. I have to take a photo. I have
awesome. Where did you get that?
Made. I found that online years ago. I paid a pretty penny for it, but it's a replica of the popsicle stick house of the Elm Street house that I found. And that's when you first walk in, that's the first thing you see sitting on my little, whatever you call it, a little furniture piece.
I love it. I want to get one. If anybody knows where I can get one, let me know. So that's what, like, I like that. I like the, I mean, it's our first sort of look. I think it's our first look. If memory serves. I just watched it yesterday. Correct me if I'm wrong. But when Patricia Arquette gets into bed and her mother comes home. Oh no, that was later.
That was later in the film. That's the dream sequence. That was
later in the film. That's a dream sequence.
Where she redreams the opening again, yeah.
Right, she redreams she dreams the opening. That's right. It's like, and the guy's like, "Where's the bourbon?" Or whatever, right? And then he comes up and he's like, "Ah!" and he's all Freddy and he's in the tuxedo, I think, and I mean it's a departure, but the tone of the movie is still taking itself seriously. So I like all of the dream kills. My favorite, of course, I think is the marionette veins. And I love seeing Freddy at the end of the hall. That's one of my
favorite kills. When he kills the Wizard Master kid.
Yes, yeah. and that's on the back of your VHS box. If you pick up the VHS box and you look at the back,
it's the silhouette, silhouette.
The silhouette is amazing.
I love that. That's one of my favorite Freddy pictures.
But it's been flipped because he doesn't wear the glove on his left hand.
No, he doesn't.
The image has been flipped. It's like that on the back of mine too. Yeah. The image has been flipped.
Yeah, that's one of that, and that shot right there is a direct callback to the original film.
Oh,
how they shot the original film.
Oh, just him at the end of the hall, and he's there like that, and he's dropping his shoulder, and such a nice shot. Love it. Love that. The shitty thing is about watching a lot of these older films on Blu-ray is the Blu-ray transfer strips any of the masking or the compositing that they've done to hide a lot of the wires and effects. Like when you watch the Blu-ray of A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and when he's killing the Wizard Master, right? And he's got him up in the air, you can see the ropes holding him in the air. Yes, you can. It's very brief, but you can see
VHS. I was watching on VHS. Never goes out of style.
I've never understood, and I admit that it's technology that I have not familiarized myself with fully. But I have never understood, if you are spending that much money to release films. Now remember, these films were not shot in HD, so therefore there is a process that goes through to make them look, it's almost like it's fake HD, and there's a process that is done. But it astounds me that you spend all this money. You see it in the Star Wars movies too. The old Empire Strikes Back, when Luke is, on Dagobah and he's lifting the rocks with his mind. If you look closely, you
saw it with the Exorcist, right? Same thing.
And it's like, if you spend that much money, why are you not then recompositing the shit out? Like, just go in and take them out again. Like, don't just leave it there. It's like you've stripped something away and said, there you go. It looks so pristine and clean and crisp now. But it's like, but in doing that, you've removed this. So please go back in and at least add that. Anyway, it's a pet peeve of mine. The film looks great in terms of the quality, but when it comes to some effects in these older films, it takes me out because I'm like, there are the wires with the Wizard Master, it's like, it's such a shame at the end of the day, but definitely a great kill. I love that. And I have to admit, my second favorite, it actually might be my first, and now that I think about it, is of course the, welcome to prime time, bitch! And he puts, slams in the TV, and he's like, hey, Jennifer, this is your big break, or this is whatever he says, right? And he's looking at, So funny. It's so funny. I just love it. And
No,
and
it's
smash it into
probably
the
the
TV.
most iconic line in the franchise, for
One of
sure.
them
That
for sure.
for sure is,
Yeah.
that's the number one request Freddy photo. When am I going to do something like that? And I don't think I could ever recreate that scene. It would be very hard to do, to build all of that. I think there's a way that I can pay tribute to it with a wink and a nod,
Yes.
just done a little bit different.
Well, you know what you do? You get an old TV, which shouldn't
That's
be too hard.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and then maybe you would mount it on a high desk or something, or a wall.
Not even that. My vision was more of like, say like you have you see the girl's feet. She's, you don't see the full girl. You see the girl's feet. You see the long nightgown, whatever. It's like the Poltergeist moment where the TV is all static snow, right? And then in the mirror, you don't see her reflection. You see me as Freddy. And I do the quote, "Welcome to prime time, bitch." So it's my own creation. That's what I've thought of as far as doing that, as far as a tribute photo. Like I did the tribute photo today of my Ghost Michael with Linda holding the phone and on the phone and talking on the phone. It's not exactly like John Carpenter's, but it's my wink and it's my nod to that moment in the '78 film. So that's it's highly requested. When am I going to do the Welcome to Prime Time shot? It's how I want to execute it, because I can't do the exact same thing that they did in the movie. And you're 100% right on being the best kill of the movie, along with the most iconic line.
Oh, yeah. It's great. And
in fact, it blows Nancy's death out the water.
Oh, Nancy's
we'll get to
death
that in a moment. I hate Nancy. The only thing that saves Nancy's death is Patricia Arquette. And we'll get to that in a moment.
For sure. Now, in terms of the story of A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, it's interesting. I find it interesting that they see Freddy's not Michael Myers. So we know his backstory. We knew his backstory through exposition thanks to Nancy's mom in the original Elm Street. Yeah. So we know that he was a child murderer. We know that he was burned, by the parents of the people that lived in Elm Street or within the vicinity. We know that he haunts the dreams of the children that of the parents that burned him to get revenge and all that. Oh, we know all that. Now, he is a literal supernatural being. He's crossed over into some sort of other dimension where he's able to do this. And so I do find it interesting that we bring his mother, right? Is it his mother?
Mom. It's his the first time we're getting introduced to Amanda Kruger and the 100 Maniacs.
Right.
And even you can sense Wes is not, when you watch Wes talk about this, you could sense, even though he was going along for Heather Langenkamp's documentary that she was doing for Never Sleep Again, which is phenomenal documentary, one of my favorite documentaries.
Amazing.
You could sense in Wes Craven's voice that decision he was not on board with, because it really does take away from Freddy's creep factor of being what he was, a child molester. You know what I mean? And just this real fucked up dude who did real bad things. Right. Now it's like, I know they were trying to move the mythology of him along. I just didn't agree with that decision of, first of all, 100 men are not going to impregnate one woman. That's just not going to happen.
And what I was going to say was I actually like the idea of having this mysterious nun character that may have been his mother, but I did not like how far they went with it.
Right.
So
I agree.
Like I thought maybe if they introduce, through exposition or something, we find out, oh, he had a mother named, Amanda, who was a nun, or maybe they talk about this idea of what you actually see, but you don't actually see it. So it's left up to our, imaginations. We're like, fuck, his mother was also really fucked up as well. But of course, in the movie, they have to illustrate that. So it's an interesting dichotomy, because on one hand, I find it interesting, but on the other hand, I agree with you that it does sort of, to some degree, start to, chip away at the mystique of Freddy. But that being said, he's not Michael Myers. So
no, he's not.
There's a little more leeway to do things like that, and you're not necessarily going to ruin the character, but per se. So, because Freddy is somebody that you could do that with, because he was a human being at one time, and we were introduced to all this exposition in the first movie. So,
yeah, because like I said, Freddy Krueger, child molester, that in itself is enough. You don't need much more than you don't need anything more than that. I mean,
no, you don't.
That really is enough to go, okay, this is a fucked up individual who did really bad shit.
That's
and
right.
There you go. You don't need to get in this whole deep mythology, like I said a moment ago, of her getting impregnated by 100 maniacs. Like, no, maybe now what I probably would have done, I like what you said, I like the element of her mom, his mom being in the movie, that she does guide he looks like Bill Maher, but he's not Bill Maher.
No,
but he does look like.
Oh God, does he ever look like
Bill Maher?
Yeah, he does.
The Bill Maher lookalike in
this.
Yeah. The doctor guy, and helping him to get to destroy the body. I'm okay with that. I think they should have just left it at that. I don't think you need to get knee deep into, like, if you were going to get knee deep, you should have got knee deep into what he did. And maybe he did something to his mother. That's what began the path. Maybe he kills his mom.
Yeah, I like
that's
that.
The beginning of Freddy going down his dark road.
That. But it's not done in. You don't necessarily
maybe she
have
finds
to show
out what he's doing, and she's going to turn him in, and he doesn't. He feels like his mother betrayed him.
Right, but if you were going to show that in flashbacks, you don't want to pull a Freddy's dead and
no.
have Roseanne Barr and. You do it with dialogue, exactly, because that was one of the things I hate. Look, Freddy's Dead is a fucking shit show. There you go, folks. You were waiting for that, weren't you? It is a
anything after 4
shit show. Oh, it is. It is. And so, except for New Nightmare, of course. But
excluding New Nightmare.
I know what you mean. Like in the original sort of
fourth
series.
Favorite, I should say.
But so it's more of. I agree. Like maybe add that element that you're talking about, but don't show it. Add it so we can picture it again in our own minds. Keep Freddy. You can reveal backstory and through exposition about Freddy and fill the character of Freddy out a bit more without actually showing it. Because then each and every one of us is going to picture something really awesome. Nobody pictures something garbage. Like when you tell me a story, I don't picture it in a garbage. I mean, that's why reading a book is often like, when you read a book, you picture the best things about what you're reading. Right. So then when you go watch the movie based on that book, you're watching somebody's interpretation of that. And often it's not just that the book maybe is not, or the movie is not as good as the book. The interpretation didn't line up with what you saw.
Yeah. So it's always just like what we talked about last week with Carrie. I started rereading Carrie again. Carrie is the closest to book to screen that you will ever get, where it stays almost 100% true to the original novel that King wrote and what you're seeing on screen. There's very little difference between that novel and what you see on screen. That's what I love about Carrie. You guys can go watch that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the show before this one.
Last week's show,
Yeah, last week's show. So, it's I agree with that. I like that. Being able to fill Freddy out a bit more, but not necessarily show the things point blank. So I like the idea of Amanda Kruger, but I agree when they started to go through, because wasn't there a scene in the where you see all of them and then you see Robert Englund amongst all of them as well?
Is that, I think that's part of part 5, The Dream Child.
Oh, is that part 5? Oh, okay. Why did I think that?
5.
Oh, you're right. It is part 5. It is part 5. Why am I thinking that was part? I don't know why I thought that was part.
Yeah, whenever I get, and it's very rare, I get into a Nightmare on Elm Street mood where I will watch, because I have all 6. Because I think iTunes was giving it away one day for like $20, all of them. I was like,
I have all the too,
but the ones that I watch in the original run are the first 4, and usually I just watch the first 3 and then Wes Craven's New Nightmare. 4 for me is like you at 6 with Friday the 13th Part 6. I have to really be in the mood to watch Part 4, because I really felt Part 3 had a great ending. I thought it had a great closure that, when you really think of like all of the ways that they killed Freddy and what we get in Freddy's Dead, it's like, what the fuck? 3 was probably my favorite way how they killed off temporary killed off the character. One was all right, but I think there was new grounds and Wes was trying new shit. So I don't have anything negative. 2 was decent as well too, the way they killed him off in 2. But when they start getting to 4, 5, and 6, and how they're bringing him back, like 4, they bring him back with the fire piss and shit. And I was like, oh my god,
yeah.
You're getting into major cheese factor here. But I agree with everything you're saying with regards to 3. I agree with, like you said, rather than showing physical scenes of the backstory, you're doing it through verbal dialogue, and the ghost mom is having the conversation with the Bill Maher lookalike.
Right, and to your point there about how Freddy was after part 3, it's almost like Freddy became irrelevant. And what I mean by that is that a lot of and I understand that, the dream sequences were getting more elaborate, more sensational, to the point where Freddy wasn't even needed. I mean, people were dying at the hands of cockroaches and the arms of cockroaches. And Freddy would just show up at the end to go, ha 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 ha, or at the end to just kind of put the nail in the coffin. Yeah. But he wasn't there. He wasn't a presence, really. I mean, he was, but you didn't feel him as much as you did in the first movie, in the second movie, and in the third movie. Although in the third movie is when you started to kind of that change.
The shift.
Yeah, the shift.
Began,
yeah, the shift began to happen, but it was that balance. So it was there still. But I much prefer when, especially when you come to part 5, Freddy's hardly in part 5. He's hardly in the fucking Dream Child. Yeah. He's hardly there. And it's almost like he's irrelevant, and I much prefer the take where he is the thing that is the most feared in your dream. I was having I was doing an interview with Cecil Laird over at the horror show, the YouTube channel, The Horror Show, a week ago, I guess it was a week and a bit ago. Was it 2? Oh fuck, man, I've been so busy. Anyway, we were talking about Freddy, and I was saying how one of the things that I love about the original was that the dream sequences in the original were
very realistic,
but yes, they were grounded.
And simple.
They were grounded in our reality. You knew they were dreaming because maybe there was a hue over the picture that told you they were dreaming, or it was obvious because Nancy wakes up, quote unquote, and sees Tina in a body bag, go, Nancy, whatever the case is.
I still love that scene.
It's such a great scene. But all the dream sequences were grounded in our reality. And Cecil hit the nail right on the head. And he said, Freddy was the scary thing in our world. We weren't going to some sensational carnival barker circus world, which is what it evolves to, where Freddy just happens to be an act over there, but he just shows up at the end and puts a nail in the coffin. No. When you watch Elm Street 1 and 2, although 2 does become a little sensational.
Not much though. They did try to keep the same tone of the first film.
They did, but Freddy was still the scary thing. He was front and center, even when the bus was on top of the poles and, oh my God, the ground is giving way. He's still present, right? He's still very much there. It's not like he's nowhere around, and then as the bus is falling, he shows up and goes, gotcha. It's like that's kind of what it became, in the later films. So 3 definitely was that balance with that. And I much prefer seeing Freddy as he is the scary thing in our world in the dream, because when you dream, when you have a nightmare, you're generally not dreaming wild and sensational. Your dreams are generally, because they're coming from your subconscious, they are the world that you're in. You may be in a place you've never been, but you're not usually dreaming that you are the commander of a starship flying around space because you've never done it. So usually your nightmares are grounded in some sort of reality, and Freddy is that horrible thing that is in our world,
And that's what makes the original so great, because Wes executes it so well. And he does well. He brings it back in New Nightmare, even though the ending is a little over the top in this, in the layer that but I think that's just it's an over manifestation of what Nightmare on Elm Street was all about. Everything was going to be to this extreme. I know a lot was pulled from real world stuff. Heather Langenkamp had a stalker and all that stuff like that. And, so I know that they were pulling all that, and it was a very meta film for its time. And I think over the years it's definitely grown on a lot of people. But Wes, going back to the first film, was able to execute that real world dream sequence in keeping it into perspective versus to, like you said, this whole carnival over the top, that 4 gets into, and 5, like you said, he's there and he's not there. I don't know what the hell happened in 5. And then 6 is just like a shit show.
Yeah, it's almost like Freddy became Pennywise, where he's not the scare. He shows up, but there's a fun house that's going on around you, and then he shows up at the end, know, and I didn't like that version of him. But getting back to Elm Street 3 specifically, the story for me was, it was interesting. I think it takes place, 7 years after the original?
It's hard to keep up with the timelines of these horror films. It's like Friday the 13th Part 6. I was trying to figure that out for a moment because technically it's filmed 3 years apart, but Jarvis looks like he's in his 20s.
Yeah, I know.
By that point, is this like year 2000 or something? Because if it is, look, nothing like the year 2000.
I know Part 2 takes place 5 years after the original.
So you got to figure 3, 7 years, maybe.
It's something like that.
So it's
and
what,
Nancy,
1991 supposed to be, I guess.
Maybe something like that. And Nancy, it was great to see her back. I love when she falls back into the chair and she falls through the chair.
Yeah,
I thought
I hated her.
I hated
her intro when she comes in and she helps Patricia complete the
Never
lullaby.
Sleep Again.
I was like, no, again, just the execution of her intro. How she sees Freddy for the first time
and her
how
extra.
They kill her off. How they kill her off is absolutely just the worst, man. Like, it's like I would have gone, like, you've put together such a good film, like, you can't think of something a little bit better to bring Nancy back.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it has to be something over dramatic, but just a little bit more thought into it.
I think it was, I don't know what Wes Craven's idea would have been for Elm Street 3.
I would have loved to read it
fully,
though, for sure.
But I say that, having a sleep clinic where there are the last remaining survivors of the Elm Street kids there. I mean, okay. I mean, it's okay. It's interesting. No, but I mean that, like, it's different enough that you've established that you are progressing the narrative. Because remember, this is not Halloween. So you can expand out and not worry about destroying the enigma of the character.
Right.
So having this take place nearly a decade later, and these are the last remaining kids, and maybe they were like 10 or 11 when Nancy was going through her shit in the first movie, and whatever the case is. And now it's like, she's is she a clinical psychologist or a dream expert or whatever
intern,
she is.
Whatever.
Yeah, an intern, and she's still quite young. So, and she's there and she helps these people. I like that. I think it's, and then of course that allows you, and then it allows you to have all these crazy sort of experiences with Freddy. It's really cool. But I agree. I think her character in the movie is almost largely, she should have played a bigger role.
Much bigger role. Like, I understand they were doing,
and she had a role, but
right. And I get they were trying to introduce us to a new character with Patricia Arquette, and everyone warmed up to her quickly. And I mean, why not? I mean, she was phenomenal in that movie. I mean, like I said, she ran circles around everyone as far as performance goes. And so I get what they were doing, but you're right. When they bring Nancy in, like I said, that first scene, it just is like, and then, like I said a little while ago here, when Nancy and Freddy see each other for the first time, I don't mind the effect of Worm Freddy. I just felt like that should not have been the first time Nancy and Freddy are seeing each other. There should have been another sequence that they should have written. It should have been Robert Englund as Freddy.
Do you know what she should have? She should have had, and I don't know why they didn't do this. Did they not do this because she's an adult now, so Freddy doesn't haunt dreams of adults, only teenagers? I don't know.
I don't
But
know.
I think it would have been very interesting if the movie actually... See, I know you're trying to paint Patricia Arquette as your main protagonist. I understand that. But it would have been interesting if the movie had opened with Nancy having a dream. And
being pulled back into it.
Right, exactly. And she thinks she sees, but it's not certain that she sees Freddy, and it's not certain that the or whoever it was in her dream was Freddy, but she wakes up with so much uncertainty and so much fear going, oh my God, I have to go home. Right? Like, oh my God, is something like almost like it's a premonition. Right. Almost like she's had some sort of like, you know, and
maybe
Freddy,
somehow Kristen brings her, that's Patricia Arquette's character, right?
Right, and she does bring Nancy into the dream eventually.
That opening dream.
Right, yeah, like something like that, where she thinks she sees Freddy Krueger, and it's that catalyst that propels her to go back in. It would help her suddenly just appearing out of nowhere, completing a line. I think that might have been visually interesting, and you immediately make the connection to the first movie.
Yeah.
And then with how she dies...
don't get me started.
Yeah,
First of all, the lead up between her and John Saxon, I think they must have both smoked a big ass joint before they started filming, because they both sound stoned out of their mind. Actually, Heather sounds stoned throughout the whole movie. You ever watch her deliveries, her line, very,
yes. I know what's going on.
Just very chilled.
I know. It's like she's in a perpetual state of being
really, like, seriously. And then the dialogue between her and John Saxon, I was like, oh my God, I've gone to the other side, baby. Like, what the fuck? Like, this is, and then like, it's Freddy faking her out. Like, you know, like, I just thought there was nothing quite. And like I said, the only thing that saves Nancy's death scene is Patricia Arquette. The way she's crying. I mean, it's one of the few gut choked up moments I get watching a horror movie, because that's how good Patricia Arquette is delivering that scene. And she's crying and saying, I'm going to dream you into a beautiful place. And that's like, you knew that this girl, I mean, she's going places, and she has. She's had a great career.
She has.
You know, and like I said, she is the only reason Nancy has somewhat of a decent, you know, death scene. But I really felt that, come on, like, this is Nancy. Freddy, like, you got to come up with something better to kill her off.
If you actually
not do her service.
Right. If you actually are going to kill the character, then I think, I think it should have been more, let's see here. I'm thinking it. She's been stabbed. She's going like this. She's back. Maybe just, maybe we don't actually, although then again, people will be like, oh, she's not really dead. I don't know. Maybe it's just seeing her die. Maybe there really is no way that would have been satisfying to see Nancy die. Maybe, you know, seeing the bruteness of her death and the way that she dies maybe just wouldn't have been satisfying no matter how we saw it. I mean, obviously you don't want, you know, Freddy to cut off her head or something like that. I don't mind her saving
Patricia Arquette the way she did.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yes.
Right. It's the lead up to it. You know what I mean? They could have came up with something better where Freddy does injure her and you think Nancy's down for the count and he's going after Kristen now, but Nancy gets him. Like they just could have cut. They should have just thought about that a little bit more to give Nancy a better send-off, which would have made Patricia Arquette's performance even that much more better.
Just to flesh it out a little bit more.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Maybe just have a little more nuance in there and add some things that might have helped feel a bit richer. I think I agree with that. I agree with that. And then, of course, when you go to Elm Street 4, I mean, you know, you ditch all the characters that you got us emotionally attached to at the beginning of that movie anyway. So, I mean, and now you're asking us...
Patricia doesn't even come back, which you knew she was probably going off to do other shit.
Right, but the fact that you ditch these characters, like, allow us to follow Kincaid, allow us to follow Joey. Right? Or Joe, you know, to a bit longer, you know, but it's like, no, we need to introduce another, you know, Scream Queen, you know, we introduce Alice, you know, welcome to Wonderland, Alice, you know, and it's kind of like, you know, and now it feels like the Elm Street films are their own separate things, and then we have to reestablish ourselves. We never really get our foot going on a nice sort of continuous thing, and it's a little unfortunate with that. But like overall, I like A Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Fan favorite, not one of my favorites, but certainly I enjoy it. It's certainly
this or Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Which one do you like better?
Funny enough, I actually think I might like New Nightmare just a smidgy bit more
than Dream Warriors.
Possibly, but it depends on my mood, because I think in my ratings I go 1, 2, 3 New Nightmare, and then I go 4. It's almost in order. It actually is almost as in order. I go 1, 2, 3 New Nightmare, then 4, 5, 6. I mean, really, I think the Elm Street series does progressively get worse. Now, you could make the argument and say that 3 is better than 2. I understand that. But in terms of my enjoyment, I think I enjoy 1 the most. I think I might enjoy 2 the second most, and then 3 the third most, but they're kind of like this. Mm-hmm. And then 4, and then 5, and then 6. It really is almost in order. I mean, 5 is, I don't like 5 really at all, but 5 is Citizen Kane compared to Freddy's Dead. I mean, it's just it's all relative to the other films around it. So I think
we're about the same. I'm 1, 3, 2, and it's that, like you said,
right.
3 for me is just slightly better than 2, and then it's Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and then 4. And
right,
and then 5 and 6. Even
exactly.
though I really very rarely watch 5 and 6, and never watch Jason versus Freddy. I don't even think. Do I own? I don't think I own that.
What's
I don't
that?
think I own Freddy versus Jason.
No, I don't. Oh, Freddy versus Jason. I don't consider part of the series at all. I consider it
it's a fan service film.
It's a fan film.
Directed by the guy that should never have been. I mean, I take nothing away from Ronnie.
He was a music video director.
Right. Ronnie Yu's a great director. I'm not saying he's a bad director. He just should not have been directing Freddy versus Jason. There's a lot of bonehead decisions that, Bob, what's his name? Bob, the producer, or the owner of New Line. Bob,
Robert Shea. Bob Shea.
And what's his name there? Frank Mancuso, who was he's the big executive producer on Friday the 13th. They made some dumb decisions that, in retrospect, you really wish they would. It was the 80s, so you do have to take it for what it's worth. This was the time we thought it was the best thing in the world, and it was a lot of fun. In hindsight, you almost wish they could have just taken a beat, relaxed, and given us proper sequels, because like you said, by the time you get to 4, 5, and 6, it's it's nothing of what it once was.
And it's a nightmare on Elm Street, not a fluffy dream on Elm Street. I mean, people have said, or have heard me say that for a long time. I mean, Freddy deserves to be scary, and the nightmares deserve to be scary, not carnival fun acts, like Pennywise would do, right?
Right.
But all that being said, A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, I like the movie. My favorite kills are definitely the Welcome to Prime Time bitch and the
marionette
guy. I like the opening. I like the opening music. I think is really creepy during the opening credits.
Dawkins' Dream Warrior song. That's a fun song.
Yeah, that's a fun song to
very
end the movie
80s.
with. And I'm not a big fan of ending horror movies with rock music. It's actually one of my
one of the few exceptions,
pet peeves. But one of the 2 exceptions, and I think it's because of the tone of both movies. The 2 exceptions are Man in the Mask and Dream Warriors, and I think it's because it works because of the tone of both movies. I think, and
because you're talking. These both movies came out in '86 and '87. You are talking MTV at its fucking peak. MTV kicked ass, and you had Headbangers Ball, Yo MTV Raps, for like the old school rap show when rap music was good.
Right.
It was a fun time. So these 2 movies really married right into all of that, and it just worked. You know? And
it did.
That's why I think to this day they're not. I don't think I've ever met anyone who said Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Warriors is their favorite, but they've always said it's the most fun they've had, just like watching Jason's Lives. It's the most fun they've had watching the film. If they want serious Jason, they go to 2, 3, 4, and 5. 2, 3, and 4.
Right.
In the Friday the 13th. But if they want fun, Jason, they go to 6.
Right, exactly. I have heard some people say that 3 is their favorite, but I agree with what you've said there. It's no doubt these two movies both have interesting tastes. They both have a very different sort of approach to their respective iconic horror characters. And love them or not, acquired taste or not, they are traditionally fan favorites for a variety of reasons. So
I think overall, we both can agree on there's a lot of good for both of these films when you look at it in the eyes of, hey, man, I'm just going to have fun tonight watching, two good slasher flicks.
Absolutely. And let's look at it this way. They're both better than Halloween 5.
Oh, my God. And 6.
And Halloween Resurrection.
And H2O.
And H2O.
And Rob Zombie's second one. I wouldn't say it's better than Rob Zombie's first Halloween. I do like Rob Zombie's first Halloween.
Right.
Probably better than these two films. Definitely better than the second one.
Careful now. Careful.
Not better than Season of the Witch, though.
Careful
Definitely not
now.
better than Season of the Witch.
We don't want to start the Halloween fire. All right, so Tony and I, let's move over to the chat.
Oh my God, is it 9 o'clock already? Damn, that was a quick 90 minutes.
Yeah, it was. Over to the chat room. You can ask us any questions you want to ask.
Ethan LeBlanc, man, you didn't get us because I've been waiting and I've been checking my Instagram.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he asked
for your question, and it hasn't come through yet, dude. So I know you sent Dave a super chat, and you can ask us now or whatever.
He did. It's not showing up here. It was a significant super chat from what I saw, and it's still not showing up. I hope it went through. If it did not go through, Ethan, wait a day or two and check your I don't know how long it takes for super chats to show up on your credit card or your debit card or how you pay. So wait a couple of days, because it was a significant amount, and check to see if it went through. If it did not go through,
bad.
Yeah, I do too, because of the stream. And right now, Evan Rogers' super chat is showing up, but that was only $2.
Nathan, I got Nathan's here.
And so it's there, but I don't see anything else showing up in my super chat. But again, it might show up as the night goes on. I'm not entirely sure. So we'll just keep that in mind. But
yeah, and Ethan, if you're watching now, bud, just shoot me over a DM on Instagram, because I know we get a lot of questions asked, and we'll definitely get the question you asked us answered.
Absolutely. And if we don't this week, we'll make sure to do it for next week. All right. Super chat from Nathan Oswald. Thank you, Nathan. Says, which do you like more, Halloween 4, Nightmare 3, or Friday 6?
Halloween 4.
It's a good question.
That's an easy one for me. You know that.
I would probably say, what do I like more? I guess it depends on what my criteria is for figuring it out.
But surprisingly, all three films are about as equal as far as what they do with the series.
I would probably say Halloween 4, then followed by Elm Street 3, then Friday 6 for me. But ask me again tomorrow, and Elm Street might be above that. I don't know. Yeah. Depends. Great question. Thank you for that. Zach Axiola at Dave McRae. Thoughts on Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and how it portrayed Obi-Wan Kenobi? That's how.
The only thing I like about that film is the fight between Obi-Wan and Anakin. Love the fight.
I don't particularly like the prequels. I like the, let's say that I like how Obi-Wan was portrayed. Look, Ewan McGregor was the most redeeming quality out of those three movies. I mean, because he's a great actor.
You don't like Hayden? I don't mind him. I don't
not like him. Good Canadian guy. But
is it the lines that Lucas wrote him?
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible.
Poor
I mean,
Hayden.
how Ewan McGregor made a good, bad line sound good is beyond me. So I think he's fine. But the film, the lightsaber battle at the end is amazing to watch.
Oh, it's
but
phenomenal. And you see the behind the scenes what those two did, the work. I mean, they worked their asses off on that.
The choreography is incredible. But the presentation, the creative choice to present Star Wars in this way, it was too cartoony to me. It was like I was watching an animated film. It looks amazing and the choreography is unbelievable. It's a ballet, and I know you can go, that's what Lucas said. It's a ballet, it's poetry, it's a dance, it's this, that. Yes, but the 3 movies that came before it pale in comparison. So it feels weird watching a Star Wars movie with this level of, synchronicity and choreography when there was nowhere near that in Empire or Return of the Jedi or A New Hope. So it always kind of feels weird, but certainly it's a visual spectacle, 100%. Yep.
Hey, Michelle Lark asks us, hey guys, what are your thoughts on Larry Fishburne in Dream Warriors? That's right. Good old Lawrence Fishburne is in this film. I forget that. And he's Larry in the credits. He's not Lawrence at the time. He's Larry.
He is.
I had to actually Google that to make sure it wasn't like a twin brother or some shit, just to confirm that before we went on tonight.
Right.
I mean, you forget that sometimes. I don't know. Was this his first film?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
He's definitely young at the time, and he's on the horizon for Boys in the Hood. Boys in the Hood had not come out just yet. I think Boys in the Hood was early 90s.
Right.
But yeah, no, I mean, Fishburne, man, fucking Morpheus, great.
Yeah. No, I forgot that he was in that movie as well. He was one of the, just the hospital guys, right? One of the guys kind of taking care of the patients a little bit.
Yeah. He was kind of the cool one. Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. Let's see here. Super chat from David Lee Barron says, could you make the argument that when Laurie saw Michael disappear in Mr. Riddle's backyard, that it was actually her subconscious messing with her? Absolutely. 100% you could make that argument.
Yep.
B Cove says, at Dave McRae, what do you guys think of the Never Hike Alone? I thought Vincent DeSante created great atmosphere and tension. Tony, you want to answer first?
I 100% agree. This is the same guy that's now doing his sequel with Jason versus Tommy.
Oh, Tony froze. Oh, wait, you're back. No, are you back? You're not back. Oh, wait a minute. Tony is frozen. Tony, are you there? Can people see Tony? Oh, no, wait, you're not frozen. Are you frozen? What's going on here? Frozen time. Okay, so Tony is frozen. There's a heck of a delay on here. Let's see if I can get, so you guys see that Tony is frozen and you're not. Okay. Let me see if I can somehow get Tony back here. Let's see. How am I going to do this? Tony, are you there? Strange. Uh-oh. What's going on, folks? Tony is frozen. Oh, no. He's frozen in time. Okay, let me see. I wonder what happened. Let's replace Tony with, hang on a sec here. Let me see if I would Tony with, let's replace him with, me. Okay, so there's me. And let me see if I can get Tony back. 1 second, guys. All right, so I'm replacing Tony with me. And now let's see if I can get Tony back. No, it did not work. Very strange. There's Double Dave. Don't know what happened. All right, let me. 1 second, guys. I'm going to try and get Tony back. Don't worry. We're going to try and get him back. All right, so I'm going to go here, network, on a connection. And disconnect. There we go. All right, reconnect. Tony, are you there? He's not there. 1 second. We're going to try and get Tony back, folks. We're going to get him back, baby. All right. We'll see if this works. All right, don't worry. We'll get to your live questions in just a second. I'm going to see if I can get Tony back. Hopefully this will work. In the meantime, in between time, you guys will have to deal with me. Let's see here. What do we got? Let's see if I can rip through a couple of these super chats. first of all, let me answer the Vincent DeSante thing. I really did like Never Hike Alone. I thought I thought they did a fantastic job. And there were a couple of criticisms I had, more so with the sound design and some of the audio. But overall, I really enjoyed the film. I thought it was good. Very well done. Let's see here. Frank Riker says, "What's worse, where the red dot goes? Where the red dot goes, you bang, or what's wrong, Joey tongue-tied?" I would say maybe where the red dot goes, you bang. I think that's probably much more cheesy, I would say. I think that's what I'm going to say. Okay. Let's go on here. Let's see. PC Pierce, thank you for the super chat. PC says, "Hey Dave and Tony, how do you think the big three horror franchises, based only on the first 4 installments for each, how do you rank the big three horror franchises based only on the first 4 installments each?" I think that question's been asked many times before. For me, it's kind of a hard thing when you like, what are we basing on? Just my favorite? Are we basing it on quality? Are we basing it on box office results? What's the most successful? Just at me in the comments and just kind of give a bit more details, and I'll let you know. Now, Tony is, let's see here. Okay. Right. Tony might have restarted his computer, maybe. Maybe that's what he did. He still hasn't. I don't think he's got the... No, not yet. I have sent him a link, but he's not there yet. James Jackson says, "Just got here. How you doing, Dave?" Good. We've lost Tony. I don't know what happened to Tony. Freddy Krueger may have attacked him. Jason Voorhees may have attacked Freddy Krueger, may have attacked Tony Michael. We're not sure. We're trying to connect to Tony now. We've sent out some links and trying to get Tony back into the chat room. Let's see here. Let's see. Where am I? Okay. We got, Bob McFucker Cake says, "My hand." Okay. Justin Valdera says, "Dave and Tony, if we ever get another Nightmare movie and what direction would you take on the story? Something original or follow a particular sequel in the franchise?" Nightmare movie, I would reboot the franchise is what I would do. Where is Tony? Maybe he's Instagrammed me. I keep forgetting I'm on Instagram now. Let's see here. He has Instagrammed me, and he says, we had a transformer explode up the street, which caused all of our power to go out. Give me a minute. Our power is back on, and I'm getting everything up and running again. Wow! A transformer up the street. It was Jason Voorhees! It was Jason Voorhees, ladies and germs. It was Jason Voorhees. He's attacked the street. Holy fucking shit. Tony, if you can hear me. I want you to know that I hope you're okay, buddy. I hope you're okay. I love it. Okay, let's see here. Tony's going to be back. Let's see here. The Manhammer AR-15 says, "Dave and T-Dog, I love two dudes and some cool bullshit." Thank you, buddy. We appreciate it. We'll get Tony as well. We'll briefly go back to some of the super chats and get Tony's input as well. Hey, when shit like this happens on the fly, you got to work with what the cards you have been dealt. So I appreciate your patience. A couple of super chats came in here. We got Nick, who says, "Can't Elm Street do what Halloween 18 did? New timeline continues with Kristen and her teenage daughter now having nightmares. Arquette returns to revive Freddy." Absolutely, as long as you're okay with Robert Englund not playing Freddy. Right? I am not of the camp that Robert Englund is the only guy that can play Freddy. I don't believe that at all. And Robert Englund doesn't believe that at all either. Now, if he does come back for one movie, which he said he may have one more left in him, okay, that's great. But then what? Do you bring him back for one movie only to replace him in a sequel? Or do you find a guy who knocks it out of the fucking park when it comes to Freddy Krueger and start fresh with him? Right? That's the conundrum that is, or part of a conundrum that is being faced right now. Let's see here. A couple of super chats came in here. Evan Rogers. Thank you, Evan. Much appreciated. Your opinion on Jason Never Dies. Jason Lives directing is... your opinion on Jason Never Dies. Oh, I see. Jason Lives director is writing it, and at least I can watch the prequels and have it feel like Star Wars. I grew up with 1, 2, 3. They aren't as bad as TLJ. That is true. I've come around to realizing that, actually. My opinion on Jason Never Dies. Trepidatious. Because although Jason is fun, I don't know if I want to see another spoof, self-aware, shticky Jason movie. And if the same guy that wrote and directed Friday the 13th Part 6 is going to do it, I don't know, right? Like, are the fans wanting that to be Jason now? Or do you want a legit, serious take on Friday the 13th? And maybe he would do that. Maybe he would go, no. I'm going to, deliver a serious reboot of this franchise. Okay. But if he's just going to pick up where he left off in terms of tone, I don't know if that's something that I want. We'll get Tony's thoughts when he comes back. I got to keep monitoring my Instagram here because that's how he communicates. Okay, he's still trying to get things up and running. Grave Warmer, thank you for the super chat. Grave says, think of The Shining, now think of a nightmare. Think of The Shining, now think of a nightmare reboot. Similar vibe and slow descent into madness. Due to nightmares as your friends and family strangely start to disappear. We need Kubrick for Elm Street. I don't know if we need Kubrick for Elm Street, but I like your approach. I like taking an Elm Street film that takes itself seriously. I think A24 might be a really good production company to possibly get on board for an Elm Street reboot. Maybe, maybe not. But I like your thinking. I like how you're thinking outside the box. Really like that shit. Good stuff, Grave. Mackie Redig says, Dave, Tony, would you like to hear any thoughts on the Candyman reboot set to release? Would like to hear any thoughts on the Candyman reboot set to release in 2020, produced by Jordan Peele, and do you enjoy the original film? The original film I like. I haven't seen it in a long time. Haven't seen the sequel in years. Farewell to the Flesh. Not a big Candyman fan, so at the end of the day, I really couldn't care less whether they made a Candyman movie or not. Not one that I really got into as a young teenager. Let's see here. Trying to hold down the fort. For those of you that might be tuning in a bit late, Tony, apparently a transformer just blew up the street and his power went out, and that's why we lost him. So that's why I'm sort of helming the ship here on my own until we can get him back. So we've had quite a few technical problems tonight. First of all, Wirecast was not working, and then the transformer up the street blew. I'm pretty sure it was Jason that fucking took that transformer out. So we will go a bit longer than usual tonight because of both issues. Let's see here. Jason K says, Dave, what would be Rob Zombie's reaction with you saying his Halloween movies are shit shows? He probably would say, who the fuck is this guy? And I really don't give a shit what the fuck he thinks of my movies. That's what he would say. And so he should say that. Let's see here. Franklin Stein says, Dave and Tony, what are your thoughts on reoccurring protagonists? To me, it's like overdoing Batman versus Joker and get less epic. Nancy Elm Street is spread out. Sydney is in every movie or Scream. Well, yes, but the Joker is not a protagonist. The Joker is an antagonist. So I agree that if Batman was facing the Joker all the time, that would be frustrating. But Nancy and Sydney are protagonists. So those are the people that your audience is supposed to be living vicariously through. So to have them carry over into multiple films makes sense because they are the linkage that you need, the emotional attachment you want when you're telling a story over the course of 2 or 3 movies. When it comes to the protagonist, they tend to be, if it's a horror movie that shares one singular protagonist, they tend to remain the same as well. So I get what you're saying there, but it's not the same. Let me just hear. To me, it's like overdoing Batman versus Joker and gets less epic. What are your thoughts on reoccurring protagonists? Do you mean antagonists? Because if you mean protagonists, I think it's fine. That would be like saying Batman should not be in all of his Batman movies. No, he has to be because he's the one constant, right? He is the protagonist. So anyway, that's how I feel about that. Let's see here. Just have to monitor my Instagram. Nothing from Tony yet. He's still trying to get back online. Just going to set that. Okay. Hopefully he knows everything's okay. Let me just actually let him know that I'm holding, because obviously he won't be able to see it. I am, oh, wait. I'm holding down the show until you return. Okay, the modem is getting restarted. They said it could take a couple of minutes to get fully rebooted. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Okay, all right, no worries, man. These things happen. It's a good thing I've done multiple live streams on my own. Let's see here. Just scrolling down here. Super chat from Brandon Gregory. Thank you, Brandon. Says, is the exploding Transformer Bumblebee or Optimus? I don't know. We're going to have to find out when Tony comes back. Crazy stuff. The Film Addict says, hey, Dave, do you like the movie The Collector? I've never seen it. I know the movie you're talking about, though. Just haven't seen it yet. A. Hale says, greetings, Dave. So I've heard about a Hellraiser reboot with a female Pinhead. I'm a diehard Doug Bradley fan, but this excites me. Your thoughts? My first thought is that I can't help but feel that they're going to sexualize Pinhead somehow. I mean, can you not see it? A female Pinhead? Somehow I think she's going to have big boobs and somehow be in tight leather or something. I don't know. It's just for some reason I see this being sexualized in some sort of way. Listen, I don't care particularly because I'm not really emotionally attached to the Hellraiser franchise. I like the first Hellraiser, but that's about the only one that I really like. So, you know, as long as it doesn't feel preachy, as long as there's not a lot of virtue signaling going on for the sake of it, because if that's what it is, get your own fucking franchise. If it's executed well, it might be interesting. But at the end of the day, Pinhead's male. That's how I feel about it. I haven't really given it much thought. I'm not really sure. Franklin Stein follows up with, for example, Freddy is an antagonist, but like, say, a Batman comic, he is the one true constant, and the protagonist is like the new villain of the week for that constant. Oh, I understand what you're saying. I get that. The problem is then you have to get us really emotionally attached to Freddy. Freddy has to be the constant that's there, and the problem is that Freddy in the later sequels was not that constant. He's there. Don't get me wrong. He's there. But by the time 4 and 5 and 6, the story is asking us to be emotionally attached to these characters that we have no emotionally attached to, that we don't care if they die, you know, and if you want us to be attached to Freddy, then you have to spin the table a bit and have the movie almost from Freddy's point of view, almost in some sort of philosophical way. It's his point of view, almost kind of like what, I guess sort of maybe like Jigsaw a little bit or something to that degree. Because it feels very disjointed when you keep switching up these people that especially when they're really likable, right? You know, Heather Langenkamp, gone. Patricia Arquette, gone. You know, even Alice, I was beginning to warm up to her, gone. You know, it's like, oh, well, you know, gee, stop doing that. That's how I feel. Super chat from JT Gorgon. Thank you. Says, keep up the great work. Thank you, buddy. Much appreciated. Really appreciate that. Okay, let's see here. Okay. Tony he's just rebooting the modem now. We are holding down the fort. Don't worry. For all you Tony fans that are in the chat, Tony will be back. Michael Anderson says, Dave, who wins as a fist fight between Chucky versus Leprechaun? Leprechaun. Jeff Nelson says, Dave, your thoughts on the movie Curtains or Hell Night? Haven't seen either. I'm not familiar with Curtains or Hell Night. Maybe I am. Maybe if I saw the poster or the trailer or something, maybe I would be. But for some reason, it's not registering. Strange. Let's see here. Where'd it go? Rick Baker. Hey, Rick Baker. How you doing, buddy? Hi, Dave. Do you think the modern attitudes shaped deeply from the horrors committed against children make the Freddy character hard to sell in its current form? Maybe. It's entirely possible. That definitely would be a subject. If they reboot Freddy And if that is an area of contention, and they think to themselves, well, we can't really, because of, we just can't because of, then I think Freddy will evolve into a murderer that died and now haunts your dreams. And maybe he murdered a couple of kids at some point or something to that degree, but there isn't a focus on this twisted. I mean, look, one moment he's a child murderer, the next moment he's a child molester and a murderer, and they might forego some of that in a potential remake. Reboot, you can't do that because the mythology is already there. Or sorry, a sequel, you can't do that because the mythology is already there. But it's a great insight, Rick, and there's no doubt that in this, very offended culture we live in now, that could be an area of contention. If it were up to me, I would throw caution to the wind and do it anyway, because that's the story of Freddy Krueger. It would be like, it's almost like what Quentin Tarantino did at the end of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now, I'm not going to tell you what happens for those of you that haven't seen the movie, but I will say that there is an event that is depicted a bit differently, that when I was watching the movie, I thought I didn't know how to feel about it. But at the same time, because the entire movie is made up anyway, and I'm not watching a biopic, I'm like, okay, and I get sort of why Tarantino did that. It was almost nice in some ways to create an alternate version of something. But you got to be careful, when something is so embedded into the pop culture and the mythology is there. So, but I certainly can see them coming to that moment where they go, okay, what are we going to do about this? It's a great insight, a great thought. Let's see here. Just keeping track of my Instagram, making sure Tony's all right. Let's see here. I'm going to scroll back, make sure I didn't miss any super chats. And for those of you that asked super chats that wanted Tony's view as well, we are going to quickly go back and get his thoughts on those. Let's see here. And we will run a bit longer tonight because of the hiccups. Michael Anderson says, speaking of something they will never do these days, make a movie based off Stephen King's book Rage. I'm not familiar with it. It's about a school shooter and the book is out of print. Oh, well, that there you go. It's probably a good point. Steve McCoy says, hey, Dave, I loved your take on the Shape's voice on the horror show this past week. Could you give us another example? Oh, well, for those of you that didn't see the interview, there's probably no context, but basically I just think if Michael ever did speak, which he never should, but Cecil Laird over at the horror show was giving me a hypothetical. If he did speak, what would he sound like? And I said, well, he probably would sound quite monotone and deep. And the reason why I chose a deep monotone voice, very quiet sort of, is because deep commands authority. Deep has presence. And I think that you don't want to lose that sense of presence with the character of Michael Myers, hypothetically in an alternate version world, if I had to choose. But I can't remember what I did exactly, but it was a deep sort of kind of voice there. Let's see. A Girl says, have you seen Halloween 2007 fan cut on YouTube? It cuts out all the white trash and brutal kills. Way better than Rob Zombie's actual film. I have not seen that, but that is definitely something that I will look into. I will look into that. Just making sure everything's all right. 111 High GH says, John Carpenter's The Thing is a masterpiece. His second best movie. It's not my second favorite of his, but it's in my top 5 for sure. I like Halloween, The Fog, In the Mouth of Madness, The Thing. That's not in order. I just mean that's and maybe Big Trouble in Little China, maybe. So hard to choose. But The Thing is definitely in there. Jeff Nelson says, man, Dave, your sequel concept of H-18 was absolutely phenomenal. Wished you were asked to direct. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Zach Frederick says, it's just like the Candyman lore. It's very offensive and controversial to people in today's culture. So therefore, I wonder how they're going to go about it. The new reboot of Candyman. Yeah, same thing, right? You're running into sort of the same sort of problems there. That's a great point. That's a very good point. All right, I have sent Tony the link, so hopefully he got it. We'll see there. He's just reconnecting. Let's see, but it does make sure I didn't miss any super chats. I don't think I did. Okay, I got that one. Got that one. Got that one. That one. Okay, I don't think I did. I think we're okay. Okay, and that's coming up. Okay, all right. Strange, fascinating. Yeah, Ethan LeBlanc, if you're watching, I'll let you. Yeah, strange. Okay, all right. Make sure to chat over to Tony's Instagram because it's not showing up. So also make sure to check your account balance to make sure that it did go through. I'm not seeing it yet. So there might have been a funky thing that happened there with the super chat. Let's see here. The Manhammer AR-15 says, I think the actor who plays Art in Terrifier is way creepier than the actor who plays Art in All Hallows Eve. I've not seen All Hallows Eve, and I've yet to see Terrifier. I'm about to watch Terrifier, maybe even tonight. We'll see how that goes. Vegas Courier says, a lot of why some Michael mask replicas don't look completely accurate is because it depends on how it fits the person's head, especially in H1, 2, and 18. I agree. And lighting. Lighting is a big factor. Even the original Michael Myers mask from 1978 in broad daylight doesn't look incredible. I mean, now it looks good in the daylight in John Carpenter's original film because you're seeing it from a distance, right? So you're allowing light and shadow, you're allowing the shadow that is there from the daylight or the sheets or the bush or whatever to build sort of information around it and how your eyes sort of see that from a distance. I don't know the technical name of that, but I think you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's all in how you light it, man. It's all in how you light it. All right, how long have we been going here? Let's see. 2 hours and 1 minute. 2 hours and 1 minute. Hopefully Tony will be back soon. Mason Locklear says, live stream at Dave McRae. If you watch Terrifier, live commentary, please. Well, I don't know if I'll do a live commentary on it, but if I like it enough, I might throw it up as one of my movie nights on my Patreon, and maybe I'll do a Saturday movie night on it if it gets voted in. K Prince says, when you watch Terrifier, will you make a Two Dudes and Some Bullshit about it? Maybe not specifically about Terrifier, but we might include it in like a double feature, like kind of how we did tonight. Titch Wolf Fenris says, Dave, I'm like the martini. I'm like the martini without the woman. Yeah, for those of you that don't know what he's talking about, it was some hate mail that I got a little while back. And for those of you that might have jumped out of the room and jumped back in, Tony is supposed to be coming back. Just the power went out at his place probably about 20 minutes ago or so now. So it's taken him a while to get back online and get things rocking. But I've been holding down the fort in the interim. Let's see here. Michael Myers, what is your favorite Jurassic Park scene? Great question. Probably the scene, the one that comes to the top of my head is the one definitely where we are first introduced to the T-Rex and you see the glass of water and the water going like this as you hear, the footsteps and shit like that. Probably my favorite scene. I mean, it's iconic. And to watch that movie in the movie theater in 1993 was just, I was 14 in 1993. So it was just it was something we had never seen before. Dinosaurs were brought to life at that level like we had never seen. And still to this day, when you watch that scene today, 6 years later, it still holds up. It still looks fantastic. fantastic. Looks great, in my opinion. My opinion, anyway. Jason K says, hey, Dave, is Julie from I Know What You Did Last Summer the hottest horror babe? Well, I don't know if she's the hottest horror babe, but certainly Jennifer Love Hewitt was my celebrity crush when I was growing up through my teens. I had a lot of pictures of her on my wall in my bedroom and in my locker in high school. Had a couple of calendars of her as well. So certainly, she's definitely one of my horror babes. Trying to get the modem up and running. Okay, Tony says he's trying to get the modem up and running. Crazy stuff. Let's see here. The Manhammer AR-15 says Terrifier is decent as mindless Gorefest, but the art character is legendary. Legendary. Well, that's quite the statement there, man. Entertainment Wizard says Jennifer Love Hewitt is hot. She was, and she still is. She's still very attractive. She looks good. She's got very girl next door kind of cuteness about her, I guess. Let's see here. Kawai Moto says, hey, Dave, what's your thoughts on Freddy's skeleton scene? My opinion is that it's awful. Oh, yeah, because it's stop motion animation, right? I mean, in 1987, it would have been just an interesting kind of effect, I guess. I think actually, because they did not have to do that in 1987. I think they probably did that because it's really freaky looking. There's something about seeing that is, I mean, today in 2019, it looks cheesy as hell. But in 1987, you were still in an era in Hollywood, in the motion picture industry, where that still was creepy. And because Freddy is all about dreams and the uncanny valley and just things that don't make sense but are weird and creepy, and it bodes well for his character. Now, if that was supposed to be Michael Myers' body and Jason Voorhees' body, probably not going to work, right? But with Freddy, there's something about it that actually makes sense. There's something about it that actually works. Super chat came in from Rune Dog 34, just donated to the channel. Thanks, buddy. Much appreciated. Let's see here. Hopefully Tony will be able to make it back. We'll give it a bit longer, and then I'll see where Tony's at. And then unfortunately, we may have to forego Tony's return. But what we'll do is we'll take note of the super chats that Tony was unable to answer, and maybe he can reach out in next week's show off the top at the very beginning, or maybe some of you follow him on Instagram and he can give you a quick response on Instagram. I don't want to speak for him. I'm not saying he would do that. I'm just saying that maybe he would. I don't know. So we'll see how this goes here. We'll go a bit longer. But if Tony is unable to return, then we'll have to sort of just call it a day. But we'll give him some time, because sometimes modems take a bit to get back online, especially when the power has gone out. Let's see here. What the hell happened to Tony? Good. Devontae. Oh, you shouldn't have spoken up, Devontae, because now you're going to be blocked. And the reason you're going to be blocked, Devontae, is because you're a constant antagonizing asshole. Goodbye. Okay, if you want to not be blocked, then be positive and contribute. You can debate, you can have good, healthy discourse, but just don't be a dick. All right, here we go. I'm just going to make another account, and I'll just continue to block you if you continue to be a dick. It's no big deal. Anyway, so let's see here. Jason K says, hey, Dave, would Chucky run away from the undead Jason Voorhees? These questions are so funny. No. I think he would stand and fight, and Jason would kick his ass. That's what I think would happen. Let's see here. Devin Dungan says, thoughts on the Psycho sequels and the remake? I didn't mind the remake. I didn't think it was very good, but I don't think it's the shit show that everybody says it is. I think it gets a bad rap because it is essentially a beat for beat remake. Hey, there's a beat for beat remake. All you people out there, The Force Awakens was nothing but a beat for beat remake. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. You want a beat for beat remake? Go watch Psycho from 1998 with Vince Vaughn and Anne Heche. That's almost a beat for beat remake. And that's why it gets a bad rap, because it's almost like, yeah, this is not nearly as good as the original. Why are you doing this, right? The sequels, I like some of the sequels, but Psycho, the original, is my favorite. I don't think, although I will say, because Anthony Perkins is in them and he directed, did he direct all the sequels? He directed a few of them at least. I guess because he kind of knows the flavor and the aesthetic of what Psycho is, he brought a bit of that to the sequels, but I still like the original the best, in my opinion. And it's really cool going on the back lot of Universal Studios and seeing the Psycho, seeing the Bates Motel and the Psycho House. Hang on, update from Tony. Okay, he says, you may have to close the show without me, dude, because I don't know if it's ever going to get back online. Blah, blah, blah. Sucks, but it's, close the show, the Q&A from the, sounds good. Okay, I'm just going to say, sounds good. Right here, sounds, oh, why is that not working? Sounds good. Totally understand. Will, okay. Okay, so that's what I'm going to have to do, folks, is that I'm going to have to close out the show without Tony. We'll go to 9:45, and then I'll close out the show there. Unfortunately, for those of you that are maybe have just bounced back in and wonder where Tony is, a transformer up the street from where he lives just exploded, and the power went out. The power has since come back on, but Tony is having trouble getting his modem back online to work. Shit happens. Sometimes it happens. So what we're going to do is we'll take note of the super chats that were geared towards sort of Tony and I, as they, normally are, and we'll do our best to answer them to get Tony's side of it on next week's show. Or like I said, if Tony knows who you are, reach out to him and ask him personally on Instagram, and maybe he'll be able to answer a few of you there. I can't guarantee it. I don't know how Tony handles all that, but maybe he will. I don't know. So we'll give you another 10 minutes here, and then we'll close out the show. Kind of a weird, funky show. It took us a while to get started, and then this Transformer, Jason Voorhees, just took Tony down. Amazing. Super chat comes in from Rune Dog 34. Thank you, buddy. Says, what are your thoughts about Dennis Quaid playing Bob? Oh, yeah, he was gonna, I think that would have been cool to see, because Dennis Quaid back then was a relatively, but he was dating PJ Souls. Lucky guy. So I would have been okay with that. I think that would have been cool. David Lee Barron, thanks, David, says, do you like the Operation Room kill scene in Halloween 6? On its own merits, yes. If I'm watching Halloween 6 and knowing that this is just full-on supernatural, slasher, blood, guts, and gore, Michael, yeah, it's a cool scene. Yep. Absolutely. Oh, Dave McRae, super chat missed. Oh, I missed your super chat, buddy. Let me go back. Really? There it is. You're on top of it. Grave Warmer says, what was the underlying meaning in Black Swan? Oh my God, that's a loaded question. Well, first of all, Black Swan is a terrific psychological thriller starring Natalie Portman, of course. It has been quite a few years since I've seen that movie. That movie came out in 2011, I believe. It's been a number of years since I've seen that movie. So I would have to brush up on that movie, and then I would be able to answer that question. Now, that movie has a lot of different psychological layers, which I absolutely love. And I remember having watched that movie, loving that aspect of the film. But I would have to, it might be 7 or 8 years since I've seen it. So I have to go back and watch that movie again. Unfortunately, I can't give you even a Cliff Notes version of it, because I don't even know where to start. So great question, though. Thank you for the super chat. It's much appreciated. Let's see here. Okay. David Lee Barron, super chat again. Thank you, buddy. Much appreciated. What do you think about Lion King not doing well? Lion King's doing great. Lion King's made $1.3 billion at the box office. So do you mean financially well? Because it's doing financially well. It's made nearly $500 million domestically alone and nearly $1 billion overseas alone. So it's doing well financially. What do I think about people saying what I talked about in my Lion King video that I uploaded a number of weeks ago, about how it seems to lack the emotion and the performance? Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. That's something that I talked about. As a voice actor, I can relate to that because I've done some animation, not that level of animation, but I certainly have done some animation. And, you know, the Lion King animated film is very expressive, right? And because it's cartoon characters of these animals. So, you know, you can see all the crazy expressions on these characters' faces. And because it's hyper-realism, this new version of The Lion King, and they didn't bother to split the difference. When these characters are delivering their lines full of emotion, there's no emotion on the face. And I have yet to see the movie, but I uploaded a video talking about how that might be a problem. And it looks like it is. Not for everybody. There's a lot of people that love it, but there's a number of people that have said, it's okay, but there's no emotion. You know, the emotion in the performances is lacking in that movie. But the movie is very successful. I don't know if it will make $2 billion, but I think it will probably end up making at least 1.5. It will be one of the highest grossing movies in motion picture history. I mean, it's part of the $1.3 billion club right now, so it's got to be in the top, 20 or 30 films of all time. So, I mean, you know, it's doing well. Thank you for the question, though. Okay, 5 more minutes, folks. 5 more minutes, and then we'll wrap up this show. And Tony, I promise, will be back next week. He will be back next week. He's more than just a question mark. I guess I could have taken that out and just moved me over. But I didn't want people I wanted people to see that and ask the question. Let's see here. Zach Gaxiola says, thoughts on Ridley Scott Alien prequel, Prometheus and its sequel Alien Covenant. Prometheus I actually quite liked. Alien Covenant I have yet to see, so I still have to see that. Tony Cosgrove says, Dave, ever seen Frankenhooker? Frankenhooker? No, I haven't. I haven't seen Frankenhooker. Fascinating. The J Hookmaster says, hey, Dave, you seen the Lighthouse trailer for A24? I have, and I love it. I love it. Much different than what I was expecting. So I love it. I love the creative choice to present the film this way. And I can't wait to see that movie. I can't wait to see it. It looks really good. Don't know if I'll make it to the theater to see it, but it's one I definitely will catch on streaming at the very least. Let's see here. Okay. Vampires Coffin says, Dave would put Chucky and Candyman in the 90s horror Mount Rushmore. Oh, would I put Chucky and Candyman in the 90s horror Mount Rushmore? And thoughts on the subspecies vampire series 1991-98. Don't know about the subspecies vampire series from 91 to 98. Not sure what you're referring to there. A TV show? A set of films? Would I put Chucky and Candyman on the Mount Rushmore? The 90s horror Mount Rushmore, yes. The horror Mount Rushmore? No. Maybe Chucky. Maybe. He might squeeze in there, but not Candyman. David Lee Barron, super chat again. David, you're awesome, man. Thanks so much. Loved your Happy Day sing-along video. That's like over a year old now. Yeah, that's funny. I'm glad you like that. Hey, Determined Mermaid. Determined Mermaid. How are you, Determined? You look very determined. Hey, Dave, I know you just spoke about The Lion King, but what do you think of it? Do you like it? You mean the original cartoon? Love the original cartoon. I think, I was 15 when it came out, so I wasn't flocking to the theater to see it. I was a little old for, because I was right in my early teens, But I saw it on home video when it came out, and I loved it. Loved it. Loved the soundtrack. Loved the movie. It's arguably, I think, one of everybody's, if not your favorite, one of your favorite animated films of all time. It's terrific. If that's what you're talking about. If you're talking about the live action adaptation of The Lion King that just came out a couple of weeks ago, I have yet to see that. So I look forward to seeing it, though. I do look forward to seeing it. Okay, 2 more minutes, folks. 2 more minutes and we'll wrap this up. All right, let's see here. Willie Talbot says, "Hi, Dave and Tony. You both rock. Keep up the good work." Thanks, Willie. Much appreciated. Tony's not here because there's a big technical glitch. So I've been carrying the show probably about the last almost 40 minutes now, to be honest with you. Crazy stuff. Okay, Jeff Nelson says, "Dave, how would you feel about where'd you go there? How would you feel?" Oh, he retracted it. Okay. I don't know what the question was. Maybe he's going to post it again. Let's see here. Sociopath Survivor says, "Dave, what do you think of Heather Langenkamp wanting to do another Elm Street? Do you think we will see Freddy versus Nancy as an adult a la Halloween 2018? I think it is entirely possible that may happen. My concern is Freddy Krueger. Like I said earlier, Freddy Krueger, I mean, everybody wants Robert to come back. I get that, but he says he only has 1 film left in him. Well, are you okay then with this new Elm Street being potentially really successful and Freddy coming back? It's Robert, but then he doesn't want to do any more, but then they want to do a sequel. Are you okay with them switching gears and getting a new Freddy? Or do you think it's better and more advantageous for them to recast Freddy, but it's an awesome Freddy Krueger that most people can get behind and love? So Heather's not my worry, because in theory, anybody can play Michael because he's a man in a mask that never speaks and you never see him. Robert's a bit different, right? So I think it would be interesting, but don't kid yourself. It would be a cash grab to the 80th degree, nostalgia, money, right? Okay, last question here, folks. Don't send in any more super chats because I won't be able to get to them. Rune Dog 34 says, "Favorite Friday male character besides Jason?" Oh, I would probably have to go with either Amy Steele or yeah, maybe Amy Steele. I do like the girl from Friday 3 as well, actually. Yeah, great question. Probably one of those two, I would say, at least right now. Maybe I'll change my mind tomorrow. Thank you for the super chat, Rune Dog 34. Much appreciated. Okay, folks, that's going to do it for me. That's going to do it for episode 34 of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. The last 40 minutes has been one dude and a little pile of bullshit. But appreciate your patience. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for supporting the channel each and every week as you guys do. Tony will be back next week. I promise you that. It's just that there was that massive technical glitch that happened. Hey, it's a live show. You got to roll with the punches. But thank you for tuning in. And again, for the support. Even when you're not giving in super chats, you're just watching, you're conversing in the chat room, you're talking amongst each other. You guys are awesome. Just being here is support. So we really appreciate it. If you want to follow Tony Michael on Instagram and you're not doing so, his link is in the description. I'm telling you right now, you got to follow him. He is posting some amazing horror-themed, your favorite horror icons themed photos that are just out of this world. They're just totally awesome shit. So make sure to click that link in the description. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, because I am on Instagram now, my link is down there as well as links to everything else. So in the meantime and in between time, until next week,